Chapter 73. Villas with tight security were usually equipped with an alarm system. Once the door was damaged, it would sound the alarm. Of course, it was impossible to smash the door. The door was thick and sturdy. Even a truck might not be able to break it open. In order to avoid trouble, two bodyguards climbed over the high wall and entered. One of them went to cut off the alarm system. The other opened the door from the inside. "Who are you?" A panicked voice came from inside. "We're going to call the police." Sayu walked in surrounded by bodyguards. He walked straight into the villa, ignoring the servants who were being restrained by the bodyguards. The servants saw a group of people walking in. It was obvious that they did not come with good intentions. They shouted warily, but when they saw the faces of the uninvited guests, they were stunned. Sayu's face was recognized by everyone, regardless of age or gender. The servants were more concerned about the news on the internet than their employers. Naturally, they knew that they were here because of Little Master. After all, everyone knew that Little Master and Sayu were good friends. The servants were surrounded by the group of tall and strong bodyguards. They were frightened and did not dare to stop them. They could only retreat. However, there was a fish that escaped the net near the house. When he saw that something was wrong, he quickly ran into the house to inform the others. "Sir, bad news." Outside, Fu Zonghong, who was originally unhappy, looked even worse. "What's with all the fuss?" A group of people broke in from outside. The servant's heart was still beating fast. She did not know what she was imagining, but her face was full of fear. Wen's eyes lit up. She immediately jumped off the sofa and ran out. "It must be Uncle Yu." Wen ran out to take a look. It was indeed Sayu. She immediately ran over. "Uncle Yu, you're finally here." Wen was finally relieved. He quickly climbed onto Sayu's body. After he was in Sayu's arms, he complained, "Uncle Yu, they bullied me. You don't know how scared I was when I was alone. The three of them bullied a 4-year-old child like me." With the support of the adults, Wen's little body straightened even more. Fu Zonghong's face twitched. The little rascal was so eloquent. Who bullied who? Sayu carried Wen in his arms. She was very heavy. Her round body was like a small stove, and it made him feel a little more at ease. Fortunately, the little girl was fine. "Brother Yu?" Fang Shui was surprised to see Sayu. "Why are you here?" Sayu ignored Fang Shui and looked at Fu Zonghong. "Chairman Fu, don't you think it's not right to take the child away without her parents' permission?" Fu Zonghong narrowed his eyes slightly and said coldly, "This is the Fu family's private matter. Mr. Sai, don't you think you're meddling too much?" Fang Shui explained, "Sister hates uncle too much. We had no choice but to do this. We just want sister to come back." Wen rolled her eyes and said rudely, "You're pushing my mother further and further away. If you kidnap my precious child, my mother will only hate you more." Wen said and looked at Fu Zonghong. "The person who came up with this idea definitely doesn't want my mother to come back. Even a 4-year-old child like me understands this. Don't you understand?" Wen looked as if she had lived all her life in vain. Then she said affirmatively, "You also don't want my mother to come back and ruin your family's life, right?" "Nonsense." Fu Zonghong shouted angrily. "Do I have to beg her to come back?" Wen looked as if she had seen through him. She was so embarrassed that she flew into a rage. Then, she looked scared and leaned against Sayu to seek a sense of security. Wen said coquettishly, "Uncle Yu, he's being fierce to me." Sayu patted Wen's chubby little butt. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." He looked at Fu Zonghong. "If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave." Sayu did not agree with Fu Zonghong's actions, but he did not have time to argue with them. Moreover, it was very late and they had to hurry back. Otherwise, Yun Ruo would suspect something. "But I hope there won't be a next time," Sayu said coldly as he looked at Fang Shui. "Chairman Fu, I hope you can be more vigilant when it comes to family matters. You won't always be led by the nose. I think you should think carefully about how you got to this point." Fu Zonghong shouted angrily, "Arrogant brat, I don't need you to teach me how to do things. Hurry up and put Wen down. What are you waiting for?" Chase them away. Fu Zonghong was even angrier when he saw that the servants were just watching from the side. The servants looked at each other. They were stopped by the bodyguards. Compared to Fu Zonghong's bodyguards, who were all tall and strong and obviously trained in martial arts, the servants did not have the strength to truss up a chicken. If a fight broke out, they would not be able to do anything. However, the boss had ordered them to do something. The result was obvious. They did not even have the chance to take a stance before they were taken down. Wen hugged Sai Yu's neck and watched with great interest. She still felt that it was not enough. The difference in strength was too great and it was not exciting enough. However, Uncle Yu's bodyguards were really strong. Wen went up and rubbed Sai Yu's face. She smiled and squinted her eyes. Sai Yu felt his soft and smooth face and was happy that he took the initiative to get close to her. She was in a good mood and rubbed against him. Fang Shui had been watching the interaction between the two. At that moment, she felt that the two of them looked very similar. It was as if the two of them were deeply connected by blood. Fang Shui's face suddenly changed as she thought of something. No, this was impossible. How could this be? Fu Zonghong saw that Wen was so close to an outsider and rejected him, her grandfather. He was even more annoyed with Sai Yu. His face turned green and he said, "Must you meddle in other people's business? This is not meddling in other people's business." Sai Yu said, "Chairman Fu, do you believe that Ruoruo will distance herself from you even more if she finds out about this?" Fu Zonghong's face turned ugly. In the end, he could only watch as Sai Yu carried Wen and turned to leave. Fang Shui called out worriedly, "Old Fu?" Fu Zonghong did not want to see anything. He turned around and went back into the house. Fang Shui followed him in. When she saw that Fu Zonghong's face was extremely ugly, she said guiltily, "I didn't think it through. If I only wanted to bring Wen home, Yun Ruo would also come back." Fang Shui sighed. "This time, Yun Ruo will misunderstand us even more." Fu Zonghong saw that she was blaming herself. He softened his voice and told her not to think too much. "I know you mean well." Then he said angrily, "I don't believe that she won't come back for the rest of her life. She will really abandon the Fu Corporation." Fang Shui looked down and a faint light flashed across her eyes. Then she said with certainty, "She will understand. The Fu Corporation belongs to her. How can she let your efforts go to waste?" Then she said worriedly, "I don't even know how to get along with her. If she still hates me and Shui Ruo so much, why don't we leave the Fu family?" "What nonsense are you talking about? You are the elder. Do we have to accommodate her? You are already the mother of her child. How can you be so insensible?" Fu Zonghong said with dissatisfaction. There were many people in this world who remarried. Compared to those stepmothers who abused their children, Wen Ping was already very nice. She did not treat her stepdaughter wholeheartedly, but at least she treated her two daughters equally. Fu Zonghong did not know what he was unhappy about. She was really too insensible. Fang Shui chased after them. "Brother Yu." Sai Yu put Wen into the car and closed the door. Then he turned around and said with a cold and distant expression, "Miss Fang, we are not close." Fang Shui bit her full red lips. "Sai Yu, I want to talk to you." She gestured for Sai Yu to come over. Sai Yu did not move. "I don't think there is anything to talk to you about. It's about Wen. Are you sure?" Fang Shui looked into the car window. Sai Yu raised his eyebrows and walked over. "What are you trying to say? Wen is?" Before Fang Shui could finish her sentence, Sai Yu seemed to know what she was going to say. He interrupted her. Miss Fang, you are a smart person. You should know what to say and what not to say, right?" Sai Yu looked at Fang Shui calmly but inexplicably made Fang Shui feel a lot of pressure. She forced a smile. "I don't quite understand what you mean. It's best that you don't understand." Wen leaned against the car window and looked out. He was puzzled. What would Uncle Yu and Fang Shui say to each other? Would they say something bad about him and his mother? Unfortunately, the car window was soundproof and he could not hear what they were saying. Just as he was wondering if he should sneak out to eavesdrop, Sai Yu walked over to the car. Obviously, the conversation had ended. Sai Yu opened the car door and got in. The car quickly drove away. Wen glanced at Fang Shui, who was still standing by the roadside. He turned around and asked curiously, "Uncle Yu, what did you talk about?" "Nothing much." Sai Yu patted his head and said kindly, "Have you thought about what to say when you get back?" Wen was worried. "Does Mom know?" "Not yet, but..." Sai Yu changed the topic. "If you don't reflect on yourself, you won't be far from finding out." Wen blinked and cupped his chubby cheeks with both hands. He said cutely, "Uncle Yu, this is a secret between us. Don't tell Mom, okay? Then tell me first. Why did you go with them?" Sai Yu was unmoved. "Didn't we teach you not to go with others? What if something happened to you? What would your mother do in the future? And all the people who care about you?" Wen hung his head. "I was wrong." He thought that Grandpa Guo and Sister Shengnan had been taken away by them. His main concern was that they wouldn't openly harm him, right? He had not thought it through. If they really had bad intentions, he was just a child and could not resist. Adults will solve their problems. You're just a child. You don't have to get involved. Wen said unhappily, "I'm not a child anymore." He was a man who could protect his mother. "Uncle Yu, don't tell Mom, okay? It depends on your performance. Will you be obedient in the future?" "Yes." Wen dragged his voice. Sai Yu nodded in satisfaction. He reached out and pinched his chubby cheeks. Wen was guilty and did not dare to resist. He could only pout and let himself be trampled on. It was too difficult for him. Sigh. Chapter 74. When and Sai Yu returned home, the sky had already darkened. Uncle Guo and Qian Shengnan had also arrived home. "Where did you go?" Fu Yun saw that it was already dark, but they had yet to return. She couldn't help but go downstairs and wait in the living room. When they finally returned, she couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. If it weren't for Sai Yu's call, Fu Yun wouldn't have been able to resist going out to look for them. When Uncle Guo and Shengnan's car got into an accident, Fu Yun was shocked. However, Sai Yu went to pick up Wen and didn't come back. She didn't know where he went. She couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. What if he also got into an accident? Fortunately, he came back when she couldn't help but call. "Mom." Wen ran over. "Mom, I missed you so much." Fu Yun caught Wen and pinched his rosy cheeks. "You have such a sweet mouth. Did you do something bad?" "No." Wen acted coquettishly. "I just haven't seen you in a long time. I missed you." Ahem. Fu Yun wanted to say something, but she felt an itch in her throat and couldn't help but cough a few times. She was wearing a mask to isolate the germs, but when she coughed, she still subconsciously turned her face to avoid Wen. Wen immediately stood on his tiptoes and patted her back to make her feel better. Sai Yu went to pour a glass of water for Fu Yun. She took it and thanked him. Fu Yun turned her head, pulled down her mask, and drank a few mouthfuls of water. After she felt much better, she put the glass down. Sai Yu then explained, the little guy was greedy and insisted on eating the cake, so he took a detour to buy some back. Wen, in order not to be exposed, he reluctantly admitted that he was greedy. "The cake is so delicious, huh?" Fu Yun immediately looked over sharply. "You didn't eat a lot, did you?" Children did not know how to control their food. If Fu Yun had been controlling Wen's sweet food intake, she would not have tooth decay or toothache. She could turn a blind eye if he occasionally ate a little more than usual, but she couldn't do it if he ate too much. "Don't worry, I only ate half of it." Sai Yu pointed to some desserts on the table and said to Uncle Guo and Qian Shengnan, "I bought these for you." As for Fu Yun Ruo, she was still coughing and could not eat sweets. Sai Yu bought her a cup of snow pear water to soothe her throat and stop her coughing. Although Qian Shengnan had a carefree personality, most girls loved sweets. Therefore, she happily thanked him and prepared to eat it as dessert after the meal. Seeing that everyone was back, Uncle Guo said, "Hurry up and eat." It was already 8 o'clock, which was way past their usual meal time. Ever since Uncle Guo knew that Fu Yun Ruo was sick, he had been staying at home. He left early and returned late every day, leaving the flowerbed to him. Fortunately, he had recruited 2 more employees, so he had enough manpower. If Fu Yunruo was not at the flowerbed for a while, it would not affect anything. It was just nice that she was not there during this period of time. In the past few days, many of Fu Yunruo's fans had come over and clamored to see Fu Yunruo, so she had avoided them. These irrational people did not look like real fans. Instead, they wanted to ride on Fu Yunruo's fame. Fortunately, Weiwu Kingdom was capable enough to chase the troublemakers out of the flowerbed and protect the inner area of the flowerbed, preventing outsiders from sneaking in. They had all kept these troublesome matters from Fu Yunruo so that she would not feel uneasy while recuperating. As expected, Fu Yunruo did not suspect anything. After a few words, she covered up the matter of them returning late. Wen was extremely impressed. No wonder Uncle Yu stopped halfway and asked someone to buy some cakes and desserts. As expected, her mother did not suspect anything at all. Of all things, why did she have to say that he had already eaten the cake? He had clearly not eaten a single bite. She just said that he had not started eating it yet. This way, he could eat it. Wen looked greedily at the small cake on the coffee table. In order to cover up his lie, he had to pretend that he had eaten it. Her mother would definitely not let him eat it again. Sai Yu Ruo had some time recently, so he took on the task of sending Wen to and from school. This also saved Uncle Guo the trouble of running back and forth at his age. Fu Yunruo thought about it. In the end, her heart ached for Uncle Guo, so she acquiesced. Wen and Sai Yu had a common secret. The relationship between the two of them took a big step forward and became even closer. Fu Yunruo sometimes felt jealous when she looked at them. She was recuperating at home, but she was not idle. After she got a little better, she started to make videos. The 11 pots of orchids she carefully raised had already bloomed. However, she had been busy with the house and the flowerbed some time ago, so she had forgotten about the videos and photos. Now that she was free, she started to edit and make videos. The effects of the first 3 pots of orchids were so amazing. Everyone was looking forward to the other orchids, especially the mutated lotus petal orchid. It was even more eye-catching. She could not let her fans down. When she was tired from looking at the computer for a long time, she went downstairs for a walk. Occasionally, she would water the flowers and check on the orchids. After recuperating at home for more than half a month, Fu Yunruo felt that her illness was almost cured. Occasionally, she could not help but cough a few times when she slept at night. However, she did not cough all night like before. However, everyone at home was worried about her. When she showed that she was going to the flowerbed to do a live broadcast, Wen's eyes were filled with tears. Even Uncle Guo looked at her with disapproval. She could only follow their request and stay at home until she fully recovered. She felt that she had regained all the flesh on her face. She estimated that she would gain a few pounds after she recovered. After Fu Yunruo finished making the video of the 3rd pot of the jade orchid, she clicked to save it. Then, she stretched, put on a mask, and prepared to go out for a walk. The temperature in the capital rose very quickly. In half a month, the transition from down jackets and cotton-padded jackets to spring clothes was completed. Fu Yunruo put on a thin jacket and walked out of the villa. She walked on the sidewalk outside. It was time for work and classes. The villa area was relatively quiet, but she could still see people in 2s and 3s. She was quite popular in the villa area. When she saw people, she could chat for 2 to 3 minutes. Unknowingly, she walked to the entrance of the residential area. Fu Yunruo heard some movement at the entrance of the residential area. She looked over curiously. The security guards of the residential area seemed to have a conflict with someone. It was noisy. Fu Yunruo walked closer and heard the security guard's voice. "I've already said many times. We don't have the person you're looking for here. Please don't disturb our work." "How can that be? They live here. Please ask again. How can we not know who the owners are? If we say we don't have it, then we don't have it." Fu Yunruo stood for a while and heard the general idea. Just as she was about to leave, she heard another voice. "Brother Security, can't you make an exception?" She seemed to have heard this voice somewhere before. Fu Yunruo turned her head and saw a woman wearing a hat and sunglasses that covered most of her face walking out of the car. My sister really lives here. Can you ask again? I really want to see her. Fu Yunruo took a closer look. Wasn't that Fang Shuiruo? Only then did she remember that the other woman looked a little familiar. She was Fang Shuiruo's manager. Why did they come looking for her? She was surprised. If it weren't for her sudden appearance, Fu Yunruo would have really forgotten about these people. However, since they were all in the capital, she was already prepared to meet them. She just didn't expect them to come looking for her now. Fu Yunruo didn't have the patience to deal with her now. Since the security guards didn't inform her, she would just pretend that she didn't see them. Fu Yunruo quickly turned around and left when they didn't notice her. After seeing them, Fu Yunruo wasn't in the mood to continue walking, so she slowly walked back. She didn't know who it was that told the security guards in advance that if these people came looking for her, they would be rejected at the door. They didn't even need to inform her. However, this was out of good intentions. Fu Yunruo felt that no matter who it was, they did the right thing. This neighborhood was indeed very strict. Even if it was a big star, as long as she wasn't a resident or a guest confirmed by the resident, she was definitely not allowed to enter. The owner's information was also not revealed. If it weren't for this, she probably wouldn't be so free. It was quite annoying to have annoying people come looking for her every day. Fu Yunruo walked for a while before she saw her house. Before reaching her house, she had to pass by Sai Yu's house. Although they were neighbors, there was actually a distance between the two houses. They could see each other's houses, but they were very protective of privacy. Fu Yunruo always knew that Sai Yu lived here, but she had never been to his house. Basically, he was the one who came over every time. She couldn't help but take a few curious glances. Then, she realized that the door of his house was ajar. Was Mr. Yu at home? Fu Yunruo hesitated for a moment, then slowly walked over. Should she talk to him? Fu Yunruo thought of Mr. Yu's meticulous care when she was sick. She was very sure that he really had a good impression of her and wanted to pursue her. With such an outstanding man having a good impression of her, especially when he was the dream lover of thousands of girls, she had to say that it really satisfied a girl's vanity. However, she was already past the age of dreaming. She knew that with her qualifications, she was not worthy of Mr. Yu. Fu Yunruo always remembered that Wen had been very resistant to her finding another half since she was very young. No matter how good Wen and Sai Yu got along, once their relationship changed, it would definitely be different, right? Fu Yunruo also didn't want Wen to lose this big friend. She could tell that Wen really liked this friend. Moreover, the original body had also lived in a reorganized family since she was young. Fu Yunruo couldn't imagine what it would be like if Wen experienced everything that the original body had experienced since she was young. One could know a person's face, but not his heart. Who knew what kind of person he would be in front of others? She didn't dare to take the risk. Even if Sai Yu wasn't such a person, marriage wasn't just a matter between two people. Even if he didn't mind, would his family not mind? She couldn't accept the possibility of Wen being wronged. Moreover, Fu Yunruo had decided from a long time ago that in this life, Wen was enough. In other words, even if she got married in the future, she wouldn't have children. This was very unfair to that person. Fu Yunruo decided that she couldn't wait for Mr. Yu to make it clear. She had to explain her thoughts to him first. This way, he could understand what she meant and then maintain an appropriate distance. She couldn't delay him. It was better to make it clear as soon as possible. Fu Yunruo's thoughts were in a mess for a while. She had already walked to the door. She was about to knock on the door when she heard a faint voice coming from inside the ajar door. Sai Yu, how long are you going to hide it for? Fu Yunruo heard Yuan Xin's voice. She was afraid that she had heard something she shouldn't have and was about to leave. She had just taken a step when she heard the next sentence. She stopped in her tracks. When are you going to make it clear to Yunruo and the rest that Wen is your child? Chapter 75. In the courtyard, Yuan Xin looked at Sai Yu with a complicated expression. Sensing that the aura outside the door had disappeared, Yuan-shin asked, "Why did you want to let her know?" Sai-yu said, "It's time for her to know." Sai-yu was worried that she would not be able to accept the truth if it was revealed to her face. Hence, he wanted her to hear it in this way so that she could be mentally prepared. Sai-yu thought that rather than letting Fu-yun hear about it from other sources, he might as well tell her personally. Although Sai-yu had eliminated the possibility of Fang Shui getting close to Fu-yun Ruo, there were always loopholes. He could not trust this woman. The same thing had a different meaning when it came out of her mouth. He did not want Fu-yun Ruo to misunderstand again. When Yuan-shin knew that Sai-yu did not want to continue hiding it, he heaved a sigh of relief. He had been suppressing this matter in his heart. If he and Fu-yun Ruo were not close, he would not feel any pressure to help hide it. However, he and Fu-yun Ruo got along well and were already friends. If he continued to hide it, he would not feel good. Hence, when Sai-yu asked him to help put on a show, he agreed. Now, his task was completed. Yuan-shin retreated and instructed, "You still have to explain it clearly in person. It's good for everyone to clear up the misunderstanding." He thought that it was quite good. Sai-yu liked Fu-yun Ruo, and Fu-yun Ruo obviously had some feelings for Sai-yu. However, she had her concerns. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Fu-yun Ruo was worried about Wen. However, it was a coincidence and also a gift from heaven. Wen was the biological son of the two of them. Fu-yun Ruo's concerns were not a problem at all. Even if he was not her biological son, Sai-yu would fulfill his responsibility as a father. He also had the ability to make Fu-yun Ruo trust him. Fu-yun would be more at ease if they had a strong blood relationship. No matter what, it all depended on Sai-yu's performance in the future. He was looking forward to attending the wedding banquet. Yuan-shin came here for another reason other than to cooperate with the acting. Hence, he said, "Oh right, there's one more thing. Are you sure you won't be quitting the entertainment industry for the time being?" Sai-yu's original plan was to announce his retirement from the entertainment industry after winning the Best Actor award again last year. But until now, there were no signs of him retiring. After Yuan-shin confirmed his thoughts, he said, "There's a movie script that's pretty good. Do you want to give it a try?" The officials are also involved. It's a sci-fi film about the future, but it's also a little risky. After all, you know that our domestic sci-fi films don't have an advantage in the international market. If something went wrong, they would be ridiculed by everyone. There's also a little girl in the movie. I'm going to let Wen make a cameo appearance. Sai-yu, who had originally wanted to decline, said, "Let me take a look at the script. Invest a sum of money in the company's name and try to give the little girl more screen time." Yuan-shin said, "The little girl's role is considered the fourth male lead. She has a lot of screen time. Originally, I thought that if the little girl couldn't act well, she would have less screen time. But I believe that Wen will definitely be able to act well." Sai-yu nodded in agreement. Of course, his son was amazing. She didn't hear the rest of the conversation between Sai-yu and Yuan-shin. Fu-yun didn't know how long she had been listening. She also didn't know how she left. She was in a daze. When she got home, she didn't react. Her mind was in a mess. What happened back then was an accident. It wasn't your fault. I've always wanted to talk about it, but I didn't know how to say it. This kind of thing is indeed very difficult. But you don't want to be absent from the role of a father, right? She knew every word of those words, but when they were put together, she didn't understand what they meant. She felt that she had misheard. Sai-yu, the child's father? How was that possible? Fu-yun tried to find some clues, but she really couldn't remember. She deliberately tried to forget, and her memories of that year were already blurry. She really couldn't connect Sai-yu to that person. How was that possible? She didn't dare to believe it. However, she had no choice but to believe it. She knew it. Sai-yu was a big star. He was so busy all day. How could he have the time to take care of a child? No matter how much he liked her, he wouldn't go to this extent, right? Fu-yun was silent for a while before she slowly digested this news. Her messy thoughts were then sorted out. So he got close to her because he wanted to get close to Wen. The reason why he was so good to her was because of this relationship. She knew it. The great best actor had so many beautiful women around him. How could he fall for her, who had a child? Fortunately, she hadn't laid her cards on the table with Sai Yu. Otherwise, she would have been overthinking. Fu Yun's feelings were extremely complicated. Wait a minute. Was Sai Yu going to snatch the child from her? He kept trying to impress Wen. Was he trying to take Wen away from her? Fu Yun quivered. Absolutely not. Wen was her child. Oh, right. She had to go and fetch Wen home. During this period of time, she had let Sai Yu pick Wen up. She had really lost her mind. She had taken the initiative to let them cultivate their relationship. What if he played tricks and directly took Wen away? Rationally, she felt that Sai Yu wouldn't do such a thing. After all, he had been picking her up for a few days. However, when it came to Wen, Fu Yun easily lost her rationality and couldn't help but think wrongly. This matter had a huge impact on Fu Yun. Fu Yun was about to go out. She looked at the time. It was already past 4:30 p.m. She had been in a daze for so long. At this time, Sai Yu should have already gone to fetch Wen, right? Fu Yun couldn't sit still. She paced back and forth in the living room. In the end, she couldn't help but walk out of the house. Just as she walked out of the door, Wen jumped out of the car. When he saw Fu Yun, he ran over happily. Mommy. Wen hugged her thigh and couldn't help but smile. Oh my, Mommy had specially come out to welcome him. He was so happy. Fu Yun carried Wen. She felt the warmth and weight of the small stove in her arms. Her heart only calmed down. Wen hugged Fu Yun's neck. His face was red. He felt that he had already grown up and couldn't let Mommy carry him. However, it was just a short distance, right? Mommy hadn't hugged or kissed him since the day Mommy fell sick. Wen couldn't help but lean over. Fu Yun carried the child into the house. The moment Wen entered the living room, he wanted to get off the ground. Then, he took out a book from his small school bag and opened it for Fu Yun to see. Mommy, I got 3 little red flowers today. Wen, you're amazing. You're amazing. Fu Yun praised. Why did you give this to the baby? First place for my handicraft homework. Wen said proudly. Fu Yun. If she remembered correctly, Wen's handicraft homework was done together with Sai Yu. Wen's chubby little finger pointed at the little red flower in the middle. This is my reward for my outstanding performance in kindergarten. Wen was very happy. He was the one who received the most little red flowers in class. Fu Yunruo tossed aside her complicated thoughts and complimented him. At this moment, Sai Yu walked in from the door. The moment Fu Yun saw him, a sentence appeared in her mind. He was Wen's biological father. Chapter 76. At that moment, Fu Yunruo's feelings were complicated, and finally turned into a thick awkwardness. Fortunately, at that moment, whether it was Wen or Sai Yu, neither noticed her expression. The little guy's performance has been very good recently, even teacher Su praised the child. Sai Yu's voice contained a smile. He reached out and touched Wen's head. You deserve a reward. Wen's tail was about to reach the sky. He asked reservedly, what reward? A pair of big round eyes sparkled as he looked at Sai Yu. What reward do you want? He could actually choose by himself. Wen was very happy. He seriously thought for a moment. He couldn't think of anything for a while, so he said, I'm fine with anything. Then I'll have to think about it carefully. When the time comes, I'll give our Wen a surprise. Wen nodded again and again, smiling so widely that one could see his teeth and not his eyes. Fu Yunruo looked at the interaction of their family, her expression inexplicable. How blind was she in the past to not see it? Sai Yu's attitude towards Wen, and the way the two usually interacted, was no different from a biological father and son. Fu Yunruo controlled the urge to pull Wen to her side and let them keep a distance. She looked at Sai Yu and said politely, Thank you, Mr. Yu. She tried hard to pretend to have a normal attitude, but even she herself didn't realize how stiff her smile was. I won't trouble you starting tomorrow. I've already recuperated. I'll continue to send when to and from school. When noticed that Fu Yunruo rarely coughed or sneezed these 2 days, he was very happy. His mother recovered. She didn't have to suffer anymore. Mom, you have to be more careful in the future. You can't tire yourself out, otherwise, all of us will be very worried. During this period of time, their mother was sick, and they were also very sad. Especially when he wished he could take her place. He was really too worried. Every day when he went to school, he still had to worry about whether his mother was obediently recuperating at home. Got it? Fu Yun laughed. I'll be more careful in the future. The little fellow lectured seriously. Fu Yunruo and the little housekeeper, Wen, repeatedly promised. They inadvertently raised their heads and saw Sai Yu smiling at them. Fu Yunruo was slightly stunned, then awkwardly looked away and stared to the side. I've really troubled you during this period of time. If you need my help in the future, I will definitely help. Fu Yun wanted to repay this kindness, but she couldn't think of a way to do so. If they were to treat each other to a meal or something, there would be more conflict between them, and Fu Yun would feel even more uncomfortable. Of course. When is my, Fu Yunruo's heart suddenly rose high. She's my good friend, isn't she? Sai Yu smiled. Good friends should help each other out. Why you right? By the way, I was just about to tell you something. Sai Yu changed the topic. Yuan Xin came to me during the day and said that he has a movie and hopes that Wen will also act in it. Do you want to consider it? Movie? Fu Yunruo was stunned for a moment before she reacted. Wen had told her that he liked to act and had even signed a contract with Apple Entertainment. Although he was free and could act if he wanted to or not, there would still be resources coming to him. After Wen finished filming that variety show, he didn't come into contact with the entertainment industry anymore. Brother Yuan also didn't come looking for her because of this matter. She almost forgot about this matter. On second thought, Fu Yunruo felt that it was very normal. Previously, when Wen was in a remote mountain village, and it wasn't easy for him to come out. Fu Yunruo would also be worried that he would go out to film at such a young age. Brother Yuan knew that she wouldn't agree, so he didn't even ask. However, now that they were in the capital, it would be very convenient for them to film and accept advertisements in the future. However, was it good for Wen to film at such a young age? Fu Yunruo was conflicted for a long time, but Wen was very happy to hear this. He clung to Sai Yu's leg and looked up excitedly to ask, what movie is it? Uncle Yu, will you act in it too? Of course, I'm the male lead. To be specific, this was a group movie, a sci-fi movie about heroism. However, he had the most scenes and could be considered the main male lead. I want to act. I want to act. Wen immediately said excitedly. Acting in a movie with his idol was too exhilarating. To have this opportunity was simply a miracle for him. Wen was so happy that he couldn't help but jump. I want to act. Then he asked curiously, what movie is it? In order to imitate Sai Yu, Wen had learned his acting skills. He was already familiar with all the movies he had acted in and his experience in the entertainment industry. If he remembered correctly, Sai Yu had already announced his withdrawal from the entertainment industry at this time. The sudden withdrawal of a giant who stood at the peak of the entertainment industry caused a huge wave for almost a year before it subsided. From this year onwards, he had not acted in any movies or television dramas. Wen didn't know which movie it was at this time. The development of this life and his previous life were completely different. At the same time, Sai Yu still had not announced his withdrawal from the entertainment industry and would even continue to act in movies. Could it be that Uncle Yu didn't withdraw from the entertainment industry because he wanted to continue to protect him? Wen couldn't help but hold his face. Although this guess might be wishful thinking, if it was true. Aya, he was so happy. Fu Yunruo was a little hesitant. Seeing Wen so happy and his entire face glowing, she couldn't bear to disappoint him, so she asked, what movie is it? Will it be very difficult to film? Will there be many scenes? How will it affect Wen? I've seen it. The overall situation is quite good. Later, I'll get Yuan Shin to send the script over for you to take a look. There's a child character in the movie that is very compatible with Wen Wen. If the movie is a hit, Wen Wen's popularity will probably be world famous. A script that could be approved by Tsai Yu probably wouldn't be too bad. But if that was the case, wouldn't Wen Wen's starting point be too high? Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Fu Yunruo felt that she was in a difficult position. This matter had a huge impact on Wen Wen's life. She was afraid that if she didn't make a good decision, Wen Wen would go down the wrong path. Wen Wen saw Fu Yunruo's hesitation and thought that she didn't want him to act in the movie. He was disappointed, but he still said sensibly, "Mom, if you don't think it's good, then I won't go." There would be more opportunities to act in the movie in the future. He didn't want his mother to be unhappy. Fu Yunruo saw this and couldn't bear to make him sad. She said, "Wait for your Uncle Yuan to bring the script over. After we see that there are no problems, we'll accept it." Wen Wen was about to cheer when Fu Yunruo said, "But we have to agree on 3 things first. We can't affect your studies." Wen Wen patted her chest and promised, "No, I'll study hard." Tsai Yu also said, "Don't worry, I'll watch over him. Wen Wen's scenes will be filmed during the holidays. Just treat it as going out to play during the holidays." Fu Yunruo. Whose child would be so high class on the weekends? Going to film a movie for fun? However, Fu Yunruo didn't say anything. Even though she knew that Tsai Yu was Wen Wen's biological father, she didn't know how to face this fact. In the end, she would rather be an ostrich and pretend that this matter didn't exist. She really didn't know how to deal with this situation. The more she knew, the more conflicted she felt. She didn't want Tsai Yu to reveal this matter. She didn't know what would happen if that happened. If only she hadn't accidentally heard about this matter. She could have thought that the child's father had already gone to heaven. The next day, Fu Yunruo personally sent Wen Wen to kindergarten. Then, she went to the flower nursery. She hadn't been to the flower nursery for more than half a month. The flower nursery's business was on the right track. The daily income was considerable. Fu Yunruo finally didn't have to worry about owing the bank a loan. The flowers in the flower nursery were well taken care of by Uncle Guo. Moreover, the other employees in the flower nursery would help with some basic work. For example, Wei Wuguo and Zhong Dongmei cherished this hard-won job very much. Whenever they had free time, they would learn some knowledge about flowers and help loosen the soil and water the flowers. Now, they basically recognized most of the flowers in the flower nursery. There were also the 2 newly recruited employees, Zhong Kuku and Liao Xiaoting, who quickly got the hang of it. They were all young girls. Their personalities were lively and cheerful. They matched well with the flowers and looked even more youthful and beautiful. It made people feel happy just by looking at them. Sister Wang also took care of the flower nursery in an orderly manner. Fu Yunruo saw that all of them were very capable, so she decided to promote them in advance. She even took the initiative to increase the benefits that they had originally agreed on. They were so easy to deal with and had helped them so much. Naturally, she had to repay them well. After not looking at it for half a month, the entire flower nursery had become much more beautiful. Many flowers were blooming one after another. The flowers swayed in the wind and were full of green. The vines meandered on the wooden shelves, and the white and purple flowers dotted the landscape. There was also a field of roses in full bloom. They were bright red like fire and were indescribably beautiful. Everywhere was pleasing to the eye. Fu Yunruo admired it for a moment, and her mood also improved. The scenery also attracted some tourists. Some people even specially came over to take photos. Some people posted the photos and videos on social media, and it even became popular. Because of this, there were also some wedding planners who specially contacted them to discuss cooperation. They wanted to rent this place as their store's outdoor wedding shoot location for a long time. Fu Yunruo felt that this was also a source of income, so she agreed. However, it could not be used too frequently. If the wedding planners were here all day long, it would also affect her side of the business. She left the rest to Sister Wang to discuss. Fu Yunruo looked at the scenery outside. The flower nursery took up a large area. Other than the private area that was enclosed, There was also a large area full of flowers. According to the popularity that was increasing day by day, she felt that this place would develop into a tourist attraction. Yuan Xin ran over to Hua Pu at 2:30 p.m. and brought the movie script that Sai Yu had mentioned yesterday. Fu Yun Ruo exchanged a few pleasantries and picked up the script to flip through it. Yuan Xin was very considerate. He had included all the scenes of Wen Wen's character. It was especially eye-catching. She roughly looked at the story outline. From an audience's perspective, if there was such a movie, she would be happy to contribute movie tickets. The small role in this movie seemed to be tailor-made for Wen Wen. She was also 3 or 4 years old and had many scenes. The character design was also very likable. When Yuan Xin saw that she had finished reading, he said, "You don't have to worry about any messy things happening in the production team. The company is also an investor." Fu Yun Ruo heard that Apple Entertainment was an investor and Sai Yu was the male lead. Wen Wen could do whatever she wanted in the production team. But even so, she still had to follow the production team. "Oh yes, there's another program. See if you're interested." Yuan Xin took out another program invitation. "Do you still remember Director Peng?" Fu Yun Ruo nodded. "Wasn't Director Peng the director of the variety show in the village?" Chapter 77. Fu Yunruo didn't have much of an impression of Director Peng. His previous actions were normal and there wasn't anything wrong with him. She didn't have much of an opinion of him since he didn't stand on Fang Shui's side. However, if she didn't like him, she didn't like him. Interactions between people also depended on whether their auras were compatible. According to the news from Xinshu, the show had finished filming after one more episode. Director Peng had gone to study other variety shows. Could it be that he wanted to invite them to a new variety show? Sure enough, Yuan Xin said, Director Peng is planning to film a variety show and he wants to invite the children of famous celebrities to participate in the show. Director Peng had tasted the benefits of Wen Wen and spent half a year planning to invite celebrities and their children to participate in the show. Wen Wen's performance on the show and the netizens' attitude towards it made Director Peng want to invite Fu Yunruo or Sai Yu to bring Wen Wen to participate in the show again. Yuan Xin could tell that the show was well planned. If nothing unexpected happened, it would become popular. If Wen Wen participated in the show again, his popularity would instantly reach the A-list. Wen Wen's popularity previously went to Fu Yunruo because he didn't have a separate social media account. However, after Wen Wen participated in the movie, he could create an account for Wen Wen and promote it in one fell swoop. From the standpoint of a manager, he hoped that Wen Wen would participate. However, in his heart, Wen Wen was still his nephew. After becoming popular, it would definitely bring some trouble. He hoped that Wen Wen would have a relaxed and happy childhood. Yuan Xin was 100% confident that he could make Wen Wen the youngest superstar. But now, he felt that Wen Wen was still too young. He needed to slow down a little more. However, this still depended on Fu Yunruo's opinion. Fu Yunruo hesitated for a moment. Wen Wen should focus on learning how to have fun. Even if she was going to act in a movie, Fu Yun only wanted Wen Wen to participate in it with a playful attitude. She did not need to care about the so-called fame, as long as she was happy. Yuan Xin's attitude was genial. Hearing this, he nodded, indicating that he understood. Fu Yun heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Brother Yuan was so easy to talk to. If that's the case, then I'll go and make some preparations. I'll contact you again after some time. When the time comes, Wen Wen can directly join the cast. Wen Wen was still so young, so there was no need to prepare for the early stages of publicity at all. In fact, in order to avoid the heated discussion during this period of time, he even had to sign a confidentiality agreement. He only needed to finish filming his scenes. No matter if it was the early or later stages, he did not need to participate in any publicity. Fu Yun nodded. Yuan Xin did not stay for long. After he finished speaking, he quickly left the flowerbed. However, the script was left in Fu Yunruo's hands. In the afternoon, she went to the kindergarten to pick up Wen Wen. As soon as Wen Wen sat in the car, She stared at Fu Yun with sparkling eyes. Fu Yun Ruo pretended not to understand what she meant and then asked her about her performance in the kindergarten. Wen answered patiently. Seeing that Fu Yun Ruo had no intention of mentioning it, he could not help but ask, "Mom, have you brought the script over?" Fu Yun Ruo nodded. "Yes, I've brought it over." "Then can I take a look at it now?" Wen could not wait. He really wanted to see what kind of exciting script it was right now. "You can only see it when you get home," Fu Yun Ruo said with a straight face. "All right." Wen thought that since his home was very close, it would be over in about 10 minutes. Hence, he happily swung his chubby little legs. Fu Yun Ruo saw that Wen was so happy and could not help but think about it. In the past, she saw that he liked acting so much. After all, in the original novel, his achievements in the entertainment industry were not low. He even had the title of Best Actor. Now that she thought about it, perhaps it was hereditary. Sai Yu also liked acting and was so talented in acting. Wait, was the Wen in her previous life also Sai Yu's child? Fu Yun Ruo was a little confused. She had already forgotten what happened that night, but she still remembered that she had dodged. Could it be that whether it was her or the original body, they had both dodged the person with bad intentions in the end and then bumped into Sai Yu? Back then, she had written down all the plot of the original novel and kept it, afraid that she would forget it after a long time. Occasionally, she would recall it when she thought of it. After all, it still involved Wen. She remembered that in the original novel, the original body did not manage to leave in time. After being filmed, she was slandered and her reputation was completely ruined. If the person in the original novel was also Sai Yu, the book should have mentioned him. After all, his reputation was not lower than now. Furthermore, the original novel did not specifically mention that person's identity, but it also said that he was not a good person. Fu Yun Ruo felt a little dizzy. She was really not suitable for reasoning. "Mom!" Wen noticed that Fu Yun Ruo was in a daze and could not help but call out a few times. Fu Yun Ruo suddenly regained her senses. "Ah! Wen, what's the matter?" Wen blinked. "We're home." "Oh." Fu Yun Ruo nodded in a daze. So fast. They had reached home and were about to get out of the car. Fu Yun Ruo and Wen got out of the car one after the other. Wen pulled Fu Yun Ruo's hand and quickly ran into the house with her short legs. Mom. Wen sat on the sofa and her eyes lit up. Fu Yun Ruo shook her head. She took out the script that Yuan Xin had brought over from her bag and handed it to Wen. After Wen took it, she could not wait to flip it open and read it. Fu Yun Ruo laughed and said, "Can you understand it?" Wen was not convinced. "I know a lot of words." Fu Yun Ruo laughed. "Sometimes, even if you know a word by word, you might not know what it means when it is put together." She knew that her son was smart, but she did not think that he could understand much. However, she did not bother with him. She poured a glass of water and placed some fruits on the table. Then, she went to the kitchen to start cooking dinner. Wen saw the contents of the script, she was stunned. Never would he have thought that Uncle Yu would choose the worst movie in history instead of the most classic movie in the future. This sci-fi film was still known more than 20 years later because it was always nominated when it was one of the worst films in the history of the movie industry. In the past, in order to make a living, he took on any roles that were available. Therefore, he had also acted in many bad television dramas and movies, although he was just an extra or a supporting role. Therefore, he had paid attention to these reviews. Because this movie would definitely be on the list of the worst and worst movies, he had a deep impression of it. If he remembered correctly, the male lead of this movie was not Uncle Yu, but another male star who had a good reputation in the industry. However, this movie was a little bumpy from the beginning. Although the officials had invested in it, it was as if it had been cursed. First, a few of the big leads got into trouble one after another. Then, the biggest investor lost his investment and went bankrupt. Even with the official involvement, under all kinds of circumstances, it could not save the movie's reputation. Even if the movie was successfully released in the end, because of the cheap special effects and because the actors were changed back and forth, the script was changed beyond recognition and the plot was very awkward. In the end, this sci-fi movie became the worst movie in history. If Wen did not see the name of the movie and the names of the characters in it, he would not have thought of that movie. Although he did not really remember it. But if the original script was so interesting, how could it fail so badly that even its parents could not recognize it? When Wen saw his character, he remembered that the child at that time was a 7 or 8-year-old child. So the original script was for such a young child? Wen thought uncertainly. If Uncle Yu acted in it, it shouldn't fail, right? The movies and television dramas he acted in had never failed, and that curse-like failure, Wen was very worried that something would happen to Uncle Yu. Wen jumped off the sofa and ran into the kitchen. He looked up and asked, "Mom, will Uncle Yuan come?" "No, why?" Wen's little face was serious. He said seriously, "About the script, I want to talk to Uncle Yuan." Fu Yunruo could not help but laugh. Little brat, as expected, he did not understand. Thus, she said, "Mommy knows everything. I'll tell you more after dinner." "Okay." Wen walked back to the living room with his head down. He sat for a while and saw his mother's phone on the table. His eyes turned, then he unlocked it and made a call. He knew his mother's phone password. Wen dialed Sai Yu's number. Ruo. Sai Yu's deep voice came through. Wen said, "Uncle Yu, it's me. Are you home?" Wen, "I'm here. What's up?" "I'll come over to find you." Wen hung up the phone, picked up a small stool and ran out with the movie script. He put the stool on the ground behind the door, stepped on it, and tiptoed to open the door. Then he jumped down, opened the door, and ran out. Sai Yu had already come out to pick up Wen. "Uncle Yu." Wen ran over. Sai Yu picked him up and threw him up a few times before catching him firmly. Wen was so happy that he laughed out loud. Sai Yu carried the baby back to his room and asked casually, "Why are you looking for me?" Wen pushed the script in front of Sai Yu. "Uncle Yu, are you sure you want to act in this movie?" "Yes, what's wrong?" Wen's voice was full of worry. "Who's the investor? What if the movie goes bankrupt before it's finished? Will it be able to support the movie? What if something bad happens to the other actors? Will it affect?" Sai Yu pressed his hand on Wen's head and rubbed it. "Who told you so much nonsense? You're so young. Be careful that you don't grow up to be tall." Wen pressed his hand on his head and widened his eyes. "Isn't that reasonable?" Sai Yu laughed. "If everyone thinks like you, then there's no need to film a TV series. High returns mean high risks. Every movie has to be prepared to bear all kinds of negative consequences. The worst-case scenario is that the movie can't be released, the millions of investment will go down the drain, the efforts of the staff will go to waste, and the actors will be affected." Sai Yu saw that Wen was listening with great interest and felt proud. He was indeed his son. He was so smart at such a young age. "What you said could happen, but..." He changed the topic. "This is not something that you should worry about. You just have to film it happily." To reassure him, Sai Yu said, "The biggest investor for this movie is Apple Entertainment. Are you relieved now? If Apple Entertainment went bankrupt, the actors under the company's name would naturally be affected. At that point, no one would care about whether the movie could be made. Moreover, Apple Entertainment would not go bankrupt. It was that rich." Wen heard that. Apple Entertainment had not invested in the movie in his previous life. It seemed that the company had invested in the movie because Uncle Yu had become the lead actor. Apple Entertainment was still standing at the top of the entertainment industry more than 20 years later. It would not go bankrupt. It was indeed different now. Then, this movie should have a different future, right? Fu Yun came out of the kitchen after cooking dinner. She scanned the living room but did not see Wen. She shouted a few times but did not see Wen appear. Qian Shengnan heard her and said, Wen went next door to look for Mr. Sai Yu. Fu Yun was speechless. Chapter 78. In the end, Qian Shengnan went next door to pick up Wen. Fu Yun Ruo saw Wen jumping around happily. She suddenly wondered if Wen would be even happier if he knew that he was his biological father. Fu Yunruo's heart was heavy. She was even absent-minded when she ate. After listening to Sai Yu's analysis, Wen no longer had any worries and happily accepted the script. However, when he spoke to his mother was obviously distracted. He had already finished a full bowl of rice, but his mother still had half a bowl left. Wen couldn't help but ask with concern, "Mom, what's wrong?" Wen recalled that during this period of time, his mother would sometimes be in a daze, as if she was hiding something in her heart. He couldn't always be by his mother's side when he was in school. They only had time to interact on the nights of the holidays. During this time, he didn't know what his mother had encountered. Wen was extremely concerned. I'm fine." Fu Yunruo saw that his bowl was empty. "Are you full?" "I'm full." Wen rubbed his round belly. Then, when he saw Fu Yunruo put down her chopsticks, he immediately said, "Mom hasn't finished eating." Fu Yunruo looked down at her bowl. She really had no appetite, but under the little guy's bright gaze, Fu Yunruo still ate it all. Qian Shengnan was the one who cleaned up the dishes for dinner. Fu Yunruo washed a plate of fruit. Wen sat on the sofa and watched cartoons with relish. Fu Yunruo said, "Go take a shower in half an hour and then start doing your homework." "Okay." Wen watched cartoons for half an hour and then went to take a shower. After going to kindergarten, Wen felt that he had grown up and wanted to bathe by himself. However, he was mercilessly suppressed by Fu Yun. She felt that a child like him could not bathe at all, especially when the weather was cold. If he did not pay attention, he would easily catch a cold. After taking a shower, Fu Yun helped Wen put on cute panda pajamas. The panda pajamas were for spring and autumn wear. It was moderately thick and had a hood. After putting it on, there were 2 fluffy ears on the top of Wen's head, which made Wen look even cuter. Wen began to do homework with Fu Yunruo. Most of the homework in kindergarten had to be completed with the help of parents. Although Wen felt that the homework was very childish, she enjoyed the process of completing it with her mother. Wen sat on a small chair and leaned over the small table. Fu Yunruo was teaching him how to do his homework. Fu Yunruo looked at the side of Wen's face. Her chubby baby fat bulged in an arc. It was so cute that it made people's hearts tremble. In the past, she felt that Wen had inherited all of her looks. However, looking at her now, she could not help but think about it. She felt that she could see some of Sai Yu's shadow. She heard that some children looked like their mother when they were young. However, as they grew older, they would slowly look like their father. Could it be that Wen was also in this situation? From her point of view, she naturally did not want Wen's blood relatives to compete with her. After all, their relationship was different from that of an ordinary husband and wife relationship. However, from Wen's point of view, a father was an irreplaceable and indispensable role. Although he had never mentioned this role since he could speak, as long as he was a child, he would yearn for it deep in his heart, right? If their relationship was made clear, what would happen when Sai Yu got married and had children in the future? Both Wen and her identity would become awkward. What would they do at that time? Fu Yunruo would rather Wen be from a single-parent family than bear the reputation of an illegitimate child. Fu Yunruo did not know what she should do. No matter what choice she made, it would be a difficult and heavy decision for her. Fu Yunruo looked at Wen. She hesitated for a while before asking tentatively, Wen, do you like Uncle Yu a lot?" "I do." Wen nodded. Then, he looked up at Fu Yunruo. He wondered if his mother was jealous because he had been talking about Uncle Yu recently. Hence, he hugged Fu Yunruo. "I like Mommy the most." Fu Yunruo's lips curled up, but she quickly straightened her back. She wanted Wen to keep a distance from Sai Yu, but seeing how Wen relied on and liked Sai Yu, she could not bring herself to say it. If Wen asked why, she would not be able to find a reason. After all, Sai Yu did not do anything wrong. If she suddenly made this request, it would be unreasonable. Then, she asked tentatively, "Our baby is so smart. You should know that other children have parents. Wen also has a father. If your biological father appeared, would you accept him?" When heard this, his soft eyebrows furrowed. He had a serious expression on his little face. His chubby little face puffed up even more. I don't need a father. Mommy is enough for me. Even if he appeared, I would not admit it. He would not admit that he had a relationship with a scumbag who cheated the feelings of an innocent girl. It did not exist. What if that person was the Uncle Yu that you liked very much? Fu Yunruo opened her mouth, but in the end, she did not ask. She admitted that she was afraid that the future would change unforeseen things after this matter was revealed. Wen lowered his head and continued to do his homework, but his eyes were gloomy. Why did Mommy suddenly ask about this? Could it be related to the fact that she had been troubled recently? Could it be that they had come from a remote mountain village to settle down here and bumped into that man? That man had been pestering her recently. Wen's chubby little hand that was holding the pencil tightened. He did not show anything on his face. Instead, he picked up his homework book and showed it to Fu Yunruo. Mommy, I'm done. Fu Yunruo put aside her thoughts and praised, Wen is great. Let Mommy check. Yes, there are no mistakes at all. You're really smart, she praised Wen once, and Wen's little face was full of pride. He was so happy that he could see his teeth but not his eyes. Wen said coquettishly, Mommy, can I go and play for a while? Fu Yunruo looked at the time and saw that it was still early before bedtime, so she allowed it. Wen cheered and then pulled Chen Shengnan up to the second floor. Fu Yunruo said from behind, Don't play until you're sweaty. There was Wen's exclusive entertainment room on the second floor. The floor of the entire room was covered with a clean carpet. They took off their shoes at the door. Basically, all of Wen's toys were on the carpet. There was also a little horse rocker that could sing. After he rode on it, the little horse would rock and sing, and the surroundings would sparkle. Wen noticed that his mother did not appear at the end of the corridor. His bright eyes darted around, and then he looked up and spoke sweetly to Chen Shengnan. Sister Shengnan tilde Wen, what's wrong? Chen Shengnan's voice was gentle. Has there been any strange people around Mommy in the past 2 days? Wen thought that Sister Shengnan was almost inseparable from Mommy. If there was anything strange around her, she would definitely know. She would be the best to ask her about the situation. Chen Shengnan thought for a moment and then shook her head. No, Wen. Why do you ask? No. Could it be that he had guessed wrongly? Wen thought for a moment. Then, is the business of the flower nursery not good? Did someone come to cause trouble for Mommy? Wen sighed sadly. Mommy seems to be a little unhappy recently. Although Chen Shengnan was carefree, she also noticed that Fu Yunruo's mood was a little off these few days. She also asked about it, but she didn't get anything out of it. The business of the flower nursery is also very good. No one is causing trouble. Even if someone came to cause trouble, it would be a small problem. There was no need for Fu Yun to appear. The people in the flower nursery could handle it themselves. Sister Shengnan, then you have to help me pay more attention. Don't let strange people get close to Mommy. Chen Shengnan promised, Don't worry, I will protect your mother well. This was also her responsibility. Wen didn't get anything out of Chen Shengnan, but he wasn't discouraged. He didn't know this, but perhaps other people would know. If he asked a few more people, he would definitely be able to find out. Wen thought that when he was on vacation, he would definitely observe carefully. The next day, Wen ran out of the door to wait for school after breakfast. When she stood by the roadside, Sayu happened to be back from exercising. Wen waved her little hands. Uncle Yu. Wen. Sayu stopped in front of Wen. Wen looked up at Sayu and then whispered, Uncle Yu, lower your head. I have something to tell you. As Wen spoke, she turned her head to see if Fu Yunruo had come out. Sayu squatted down and leaned over cooperatively. Wen tiptoed and whispered, Uncle Yu, help me pay attention to whether there are strange men around Mommy. Sayu raised his eyebrows and looked at Wen. His chubby little face was very serious. Wen reminded him, if there are any, you have to tell me. He thought to himself that Uncle Yu was so reliable. If he saw Mommy being bullied, he would definitely help. Fu Yunruo walked out and saw Wen talking intimately with Sai Yu. Her expression froze, and then she walked over as if nothing had happened. What are you talking about? She pulled Wen over and held her hand. It's time to go to school. She tried hard not to look in Sai Yu's direction. The car stopped in front of them. Fu Yunruo brought Wen into the car. Wen turned around. Uncle Yu, don't forget what I said. Sai Yu stood up and nodded, but his gaze was on Fu Yunruo. Fu Yunruo avoided his gaze. The car quickly left. Fu Yunruo looked at Sai Yu's image in the rearview mirror and then disappeared. She didn't ask Wen what they talked about. After sending her to the kindergarten and handing her over to the teacher, she went straight to the flower garden. She kept herself busy so that she wouldn't think about other things. Not long after, the employee, Guan Keek, found her and said that someone was looking for her outside. Seeing Guan Keek's complicated expression, Fu Yunruo asked, "Who is it?" "It's that Fang Shueruo." Very few young people nowadays didn't pay attention to the hot news. Last year, the news about the Fu family and Fang Shueruo was all over the place. Guan Keek had heard a little about it, especially now that one of the parties involved had become her boss. She could also hear some gossip here. Therefore, Guan Keek also knew about the dispute between them. She just felt that since their relationship was so bad that she could even steal someone else's fiancé, shouldn't she consciously avoid appearing in front of the victim and be as quiet as a chicken? Wasn't taking the initiative to come to her door again and again to show her presence poking at people's hearts? Even if she didn't mind, she still felt disgusted, right? This Best Actress Fang was really hard to explain. When Fu Yunruo heard this, she subconsciously frowned. Did she come here because she couldn't block her at the entrance of the villa district and couldn't enter? Fu Yunruo said, "Just say that I'm not here." Guan Keek said with a bitter expression, "She said that if you're not here, she will keep waiting until you appear." They were open for business. If Fang Shui stayed in their office and didn't leave, what if she bumped into customers and exposed her identity and caused chaos? Then, how could they continue doing business? Fu Yunruo obviously thought of this as well. She took off her gloves and walked out. She wanted to see what Fang Shueruo was up to. Chapter 79. Fu Yunruo went to the office. Fang Shueruo sat on the chair, and her manager, Ms. Wen, was there too. Guan Kuku was worried and followed them in. If there was a fight, she could help in time and prevent herself from being bullied. Fu Yunruo sat on the chair behind the desk. "Sister," Fu Yunruo interrupted her. "Don't call me that. It's disgusting." Fang Shueruo looked at her and said softly, "Uncle has always hoped that we can get along well." Fu Yunruo snorted and looked indifferent. "Don't talk nonsense. Let's get straight to the point." She looked at the time. "I'll only give you 5 minutes to tell me your purpose. After that, you don't have to make your presence known in front of me." Fang Shueruo looked at Ms. Wen. Ms. Wen nodded knowingly and turned to leave. When she passed by, she glanced at Guan Kuku and asked her to follow her out. Guan Kuku stood still and looked at Fu Yunruo. Fu Yunruo said, "You can leave too." Guan Kuku went out worriedly. Only Fu Yunruo and Fang Shueruo were left in the office. Fang Shueruo said, "I know that you don't like me, but no matter what, you're still my sister in name. So, after I accidentally found out about something, I couldn't sleep and eat in peace. I felt that I had to tell you." Fu Yunruo didn't say anything and waited for her to get to the point. Sai Yu is famous in the circle for not getting close to women. Back then, when we were in the countryside, he didn't care about the impact on your reputation and insisted on pestering you. I found it strange, but I didn't expect. "So?" Fang Shueruo stuttered. Fu Yunruo remained calm. "So he likes me?" She held her chin and sighed in distress. "I can't help it. I'm so likable. Some people who are hated can't help but be envious." Fang Shueruo choked, but her expression didn't change. "Sister, you must be joking. I only found out later that he was so nice to you and when because he had ulterior motives." "I know. When is too likable. There are a lot of people online who want to be Wen's stepfather. Is Mr. Yu one of them? Fang Ruo. Don't you want to know who bullied you at the hotel that day? Fu Yun. She went straight to the point. So Fang Shueruo always wanted to talk to her because she wanted to talk to her. Was Wen Yu? Could it be that he wanted to sow discord between her and Sai Yu? Her heart was as clear as a mirror. That night was an accident, and she couldn't say who was right and who was wrong. Although she was drugged and unconscious, to a man, it was normal for him to not be able to control himself when a beautiful girl threw herself into his arms. How could he blame others for taking advantage of her? At most, because of this incident, she realized that Sai Yu wasn't a gentleman and her impression of him dropped. After she found out that the man's identity was Sai Yu, she was worried that he would snatch the child away from her. She also felt awkward. It was as if she had accidentally slept with a friend of the opposite sex after getting drunk. They didn't have any feelings for each other other than friendship. Then, they had an intimate relationship and they were neighbors who would see each other from time to time. Fu Yun Ruo didn't react. Fang Shueruo. When did Fu Yun Ruo become so good at infuriating people? After not seeing her for so many years, her personality had changed completely. She wasn't as brainless as she used to be and would explode at the slightest provocation. Or was she just pretending in the past and this was her true nature? Fu Yun Ruo looked at the time and reminded her, "You still have 2 minutes." Fang Shueruo stroked her hair and looked at her disapprovingly. She said gently, "I know, because Brother Chang." She didn't finish her sentence. "That day at the hotel, your man was Sai Yu. He appeared beside you with ill intentions. He already knew that Wen Wen was his son, so he deliberately approached you and nurtured his relationship with Wen Wen. When the time is right, he will snatch Wen Wen away from you. By then, even if you go to court, you won't be able to snatch Wen Wen back." Fang Shueruo stared at Fu Yun Ruo, trying to see anger in her expression. However, Fu Yun Ruo's expression was calm and she looked at her as if she was looking at a monkey. Fu Yun Ruo blinked and said lazily, "Why would I think that he bullied me? You're not the person involved. Can't I be lustful and sleep with him? After all, Mr. Yu is the dream lover of millions of girls." Fu Yun Ruo touched her chin. "Now that I think about it, I'm pretty good to be able to sleep with him. Or are you saying that you were watching me in the dark at that time?" Fu Yun Ruo smiled. "Tell me, if my good father knew that his good stepdaughter watched his biological daughter being taken away by a strange man, how would he feel?" Fang Shueruo's complexion changed drastically. She was about to cry, with an expression of being wronged and hurt. Fu Yun Ruo said lightly, "There's no third person here. You don't have to act in front of me. To be honest, after reading for so many years, you've always been like this. I'm tired of it." She wasn't the original owner, who would lose her mind after being provoked. She suspected that the original owner was influenced by the plot of the book, which caused her to lose her mind. Or did you secretly record it or secretly broadcast it? Fang Shueruo forced a smile. "Sister, what are you talking about? It's best if you don't." Fu Yunruo didn't want her private affairs to be discussed by hundreds of millions of netizens again, pushing Wen Wen to the forefront of the storm. Even if she took Fu Yunruo out of context, she wasn't afraid. There were surveillance cameras in her office. Fu Yunruo leaned back on the black chair. "As for you saying that he wants to snatch Wen Wen, do you think you know him better or I know him better?" Fang Shueruo's heart twisted. She felt that her trip here was a joke. Fu Yunruo looked at the time. 5 minutes are up. Take care. I won't see you out. Oh. As if she thought of something, she reminded her. Wrap yourself up tightly when you go out. Fang Shueruo stood up. Since sister knows, then I won't say any more. Goodbye. She put on her sunglasses and turned to leave. Her high heels made a crisp sound on the floor. Her face under the sunglasses couldn't hide the distortion. Fu Yunruo was really stubborn. She was getting more and more difficult to deal with. She didn't look surprised at all. In the past, she didn't seem to know anything. Or was it that she already knew and just pretended not to know to deceive them? Fu Yunruo was actually such a scheming person. Did Sai Yu know? Fu Yunruo wanted to use the child to climb up the social ladder. Fang Shueruo sat in the black limousine. Sister, when asked with concern, "How was it?" Fang Shueruo sounded disappointed. "I reminded her out of kindness, but I was ridiculed." Sister Wen suddenly felt indignant. She really doesn't know what's good for her. She scolded for a while. Fang Shueruo frowned and interrupted her. "Okay, sister misunderstands me too much. It's normal that she doesn't believe me. Let's go." She looked tired. The limousine drove away silently. Fang Shueruo suddenly asked, "How's Sai Yu's schedule recently?" Sister Wen looked troubled. It's hard to find out his schedule. There were no secrets in the entertainment industry. It was easy to find out the schedule of many famous people, but it depended on the person. Sai Yu's schedule was within the range that couldn't be found out. Fang Shueruo looked at Sister Wen. "Before tonight, I want to know his schedule. Do you understand?" Sister Wen felt bitter in her heart, but she could only agree. Fang Shueruo nodded in satisfaction and said, "What about my schedule recently?" After the new year, the incident last year didn't affect her that much. Netizens were forgetful, and there was an endless stream of new news every day. Everyone gradually forgot about this incident. So recently, they started to contact some good resources. Speaking of this, Sister Wen felt even more troubled. Netizens were easily forgetful, but this incident left an impression in the hearts of many industry executives. It wasn't easy to erase the negative impression. Fang Shueruo's resources plummeted. It was better than before the new year, but it wasn't much better. She still only had resources from the Fu family, the Chang family, and the company. According to the information that she found out, Fang Shueruo had been blacklisted by many big brands. The company recently invested in a TV series. The cast is not small, and the company wants you to be the female lead. What she didn't say was that the company's other female lead was the second female lead in the TV series. Perhaps the company wanted to use this opportunity to help other female stars. No one knew how miserable Sister Wen felt. She clearly understood that if it weren't for the Chang and Fu families, Fang Shueruo would have been completely suppressed and disappeared from the entertainment industry. The company also needed to make money. In the past, Fang Shueruo dominated the industry. Her luck was unstoppable, and she also had a strong background. The company was happy to give all their resources to her. But now, Fang Shueruo was half-banned. For the sake of the Chang and Fu families, the company didn't turn hostile and freeze her. However, they had already started to nurture other female stars. If this was in the past, how could other female stars have a chance to shine? Fang Shueruo said calmly, "Accept it." She hadn't produced any works in a long time. If she didn't produce any works, her fans would leave her. Fang Shueruo's lips curled up. So what if Fu Yun hooked up with Sai Yu? Even if Sai Yu said that she would never work with her in the industry, her resources were still better than most A-list female stars. After Fang Shueruo left, Fu Yun frowned. She was thinking about a problem. How did Fang Shueruo find out about this? Since she knew, it wouldn't take long for the whole world to find out. She didn't think that she would keep it a secret. This time, she didn't succeed in sowing discord. Who knew what else would happen next? What should she do? If Fu Yunruo knew how many fans Sai Yu had, she and Wen would be the first to bear the brunt of the news. How much criticism would they receive then? It didn't matter to her, but what about Wen? How worrisome. How did this woman find out? Fu Yunruo was extremely distressed. Little did she know that Fang Shueruo wanted to use this opportunity to sow discord because she couldn't make an issue out of this. Fu Yunruo walked out of the office and was instantly surrounded. Many pairs of eyes looked at her with concern. Fu Yunruo smiled and comforted them. "Don't worry, I'm fine." When they saw that Fu Yunruo was indeed unaffected, they left worriedly. Fu Yunruo returned to the flower shed and looked at the vibrant and colorful orchids. Her slightly depressed mood instantly lightened up. Indeed, flowers and plants were very healing. In the afternoon, Guan Keek came over with a bitter expression and said that someone was looking for her. Fu Yun Ruo thought that Fang Shui Ruo had returned, but Guan Keek said that it was Chairman Fu this time. Did she hit the young one and the old one came? She hadn't even hit her yet, and she couldn't wait to settle the score? Fu Yun Ruo was angry. She threw her gloves away and walked out aggressively. Chapter 80. Fu Yun Ruo opened the office door and walked in. Fu Zonghong, who was looking at the murals on the wall with his hands behind his back, turned around when he heard the sound. Fu Yun Ruo's expression was cold. What do you want? Fu Zonghong's first reaction was to get angry, but he still remembered the purpose of his visit. He suppressed his anger and said, "Is this how you talk to your father? If you want to be filial, go look for your precious daughter. You're all grown up now, aren't you? You've been back in the capital for so long, but you haven't come home even once. Do you still see me as your father? Chairman Fu, you must be joking. I come home every day." As for the home he was talking about, was there still a place for her? "I'm here to inform you to bring Wen home. Let's see what you've taught Wen." Fu Zonghong was extremely displeased. Fu Yun Ruo frowned. "When did you look for Wen? You didn't say anything in front of Wen, did you? When did that happen? That little girl, Wen, didn't mention it to her. Uncle Guo and Shengnan wouldn't hide it from her. They probably didn't know. Was that the time when you came back late to pick up Wen?" Fu Zonghong Ruo said unhappily, "You didn't bring the child back, but I can't bring him home. Wen is a child of the Fu family. I'm here today to inform you that if you want to make a scene, don't bring the child along. I'll bring Wen home and teach him personally." Fu Yun Ruo scoffed. The child's biological father hadn't jumped out to snatch the child away, but he was the first to do so. How shameless was he? Teach you? Raise him to be like you, who can't tell right from wrong, who's blind and blinded, and who's led by the nose by women? Fu Zonghong slammed the table hard. "What are you talking about? Did I say anything wrong?" Fu Yun Ruo wasn't afraid at all. She walked to the office chair and sat down with an indifferent expression. "I don't want to quarrel with you. Let's get straight to the point." Fu Yun Ruo signaled him to sit down. She calmly said, "In your heart, what kind of person am I? Stupid? Vicious? Narrow-minded? Your good wife and stepdaughter are kind and weak women who can only be bullied by me." Fu Zonghong snorted through his nostrils. He looked at Fu Yun and did not say anything. It was obvious that this was what he thought. Fu Yun was not disappointed. After so many years, his views were already deeply ingrained. "Do you still remember what I was like before you remarried? Was I against you remarrying from the beginning? Do you still remember the original intention of remarrying?" Fu Yun recalled what her father had said to her in her distant memories. "You said that you wanted to find someone to take good care of me. Because of what you said, I agreed in the end. Have you forgotten that I didn't object to your remarrying from the beginning? I didn't object to your remarrying. I objected to the mother and daughter. Why do you think that it's all my fault and not their fault? Ask yourself, do you really think that she took good care of me?" Fu Yunruo arched her eyebrows. "I'm the first wife's daughter. Ever since I was young, I've become the perfect foil for her daughter's gentleness, kindness, and purity. She's multi-talented. In your eyes, in the circle, I'm labeled as vicious, violent, idiotic, and brainless. Look at how well she's taken care of me. Do you really not know anything? You're an old fox who can develop the Fu family so well and succeed in the business world. Are you really so muddle-headed when it comes to family matters? No, you know everything, right? Because your heart is already biased. In your heart, your wife is a gentle and understanding flower and a filial, considerate, and obedient stepdaughter. They are much more important than your biological daughter, so you let them be and pretended that you didn't know anything. After a day of work, you only want to see family harmony when you come home. They can make you relax and let you enjoy the happiness of being with your family, but I only know how to cry and make you upset." Fu Zonghong was furious. "I'm biased? If I'm biased, Why would I let you inherit the Fu Corporation? Fu Yunruo's gaze was clear. Yes, I'm still the only successor of the Fu Corporation. Most of the family assets are still mine, so what's wrong with me giving in to them? What's wrong with suffering a little to maintain family harmony? That's what you think deep down in your heart, right? Fu Zonghong suddenly stood up and the office chair that he pushed away made an ear-piercing sound. Fu Yunruo. Chairman Fu, don't be so angry. I still have a lot of things to say. Forget it. Fu Yunruo was uninterested. I've already said what I wanted to say. Last year's incident on the internet was known by the entire internet. You're the only one who kept your eyes closed and didn't want to expose it. With your ability, you can still find the video online. You can also read more of the netizens' analysis. I think it's quite interesting. She thought for a while and said, or maybe you've already seen it and just think that I'm slandering you. If that's the case, I have nothing to say. There was a saying that made sense. You can never wake up a person who pretends to be asleep. You don't have to think about hitting on Wen. His surname is Fu, but the Fu in my name is not the Fu in Fu Zonghong. It has nothing to do with the Fu family. I won't let Wen become the next me. If you want to hit on Wen again, don't blame me. Before Fu Yunruo could finish her words, the office door was suddenly pushed open. Uncle Guo walked in heavily and stared at Fu Zonghong with an unfriendly expression. You still want to hit on Wen? You're dreaming. If you dare to touch Wen, I'll fight you to the death. You're not even as old as me, but you're already dim-witted. Ruoruo is such a good daughter, yet you don't know how to cherish her. There are many people who want her to be their daughter and dote on her. Who do you think you are? If you dare to let your wife and daughter bully Ruoruo again, I'll beat all of you up. If a beating isn't enough, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Fu Yunruo was afraid that Uncle Guo's anger would affect his health, so she quickly stood up and walked over to calm him down. Uncle Guo, that's enough. With all of you protecting me, who would dare to bully me now? I've said everything that needs to be said. Let's go. Fu Yunruo supported Uncle Guo and was about to leave the office. Before leaving, she looked at Fu Zonghong. I've said all that I have to say. Chairman Fu, you're on your own now. Also, look after your precious daughter. Oh, and your precious wife. Don't let them always come in front of me. If you don't jump around in front of me, I don't know how good my life will be. She was annoyed whenever they jumped around. After Fu Yunruo finished speaking, she helped Uncle Guo out of the office, leaving Fu Zonghong alone in the office with a gloomy expression. Fu Yunruo returned to the flower shed and sighed faintly. She did not expect him to listen to her, she only hoped that he would appear in front of her less often. Uncle Guo still looked unhappy. If they dare to come in the future, call more people. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Okay. Next time, I'll call more people. Fu Yunruo coaxed. Uncle Guo still wanted to say something, but he remembered that he was her biological father. In the end, he snorted coldly and left with his hands behind his back. Fu Yunruo held her forehead and smiled helplessly. She did not stay in the flower shed for long before it was time to pick up Wen. Fu Yunruo and Qian Shengnan left the flower garden. At this time, Fu Zonghong had already left. He got the car to drive directly to the kindergarten and watched from afar as Fu Yunruo left happily after picking up Wen. He looked at the bright and innocent smile on Fu Yunruo's face and realized for the first time that she was not aggressive in front of others. He sat for a long time before instructing, "Let's go back." His voice sounded much more tired. When he returned to the Fu family, Fu Zonghong did not see Fang wanting and went straight to the study. He sat in the study and slowly recalled how Fu Yunruo looked when she was young. As Wen looked too much like Fu Yunruo, when he thought of Wen, memories of Fu Yunruo when she was young slowly surfaced. At that time, Fu Yunruo was about the same age. She was very obedient and soft. Every day, he would go home early from work just to spend more time with his daughter. Fu Zonghong inadvertently looked at the desk. There were 2 photo frames on the right side. One was a photo of him, Fang wanting, and his daughter. He remembered that the one on the desk was Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Fang Wanting Ruo came in with a cup of hot tea. Old Gao said that you were back, so I came to take a look. Fang Wanting Ruo walked over and smiled at Wen Wan. Fu Zonghong responded. I made a cup of black tea for you personally. Fang Wanting Ruo placed the teacup on his right side and then stood behind him to massage his shoulders. What's wrong? You don't look very happy. Fu Zonghong's eyebrows slowly relaxed. When he heard that, he snorted coldly. It's all because of that rebellious girl. I put down my pride and personally invited her back, but she refused. Take it slow. As the saying goes, only when you raise a child do you realize your parents' kindness. Yun Ruo will understand you. By the way, where's the photo of Yun Ruo that I put here? He remembered that the photo on his desk was a photo of Yun Ruo when she was young. It had not been touched for many years. Fang Wanting Ruo's smile froze. Then, she rebuked, it's all because of you. You said that you would get angry when you see Yun Ruo. I was afraid that you would smash the photo frame, so I put it away. Okay. That was true. She left home without a word and did not leave any news. If he got angry, he might really smash the photo frame. However, at this moment, he suddenly remembered Fu Yun Ruo's harsh words. Ask yourself honestly, did she really take good care of me? At that time, Fu Zonghong was still young. There were many young ladies in the social circle who were interested in marrying him. Fu Zonghong's father had chosen Fang Wanting because she was docile and had no background. For the sake of his only daughter, he was unwilling to marry a young lady from an aristocratic family. He was afraid that she would suffer in the future. But when did it start to change? Ever since Yun Ruo kept crying and throwing tantrums at Mother Fang, telling them to get lost. She kept lying that they bullied her. However, Fang Wanting did not explain herself. She only apologized sadly. Later, he installed surveillance cameras. In the footage, Fang Wanting did take good care of her, but his daughter refused to accept it and kept throwing tantrums. Instead, she was the one who bullied Fang Ruo. He gradually became impatient. Every time Fang Wanting comforted him gently, he would get angrier and angrier at his daughter's immaturity. Later on, he would scold her. In the end, the father and daughter would quarrel whenever they saw each other. When did it start to change? Fu Zonghong's father looked at Fang Wanting. At that moment, his gaze was extremely unfamiliar. Mother Fang's heart skipped a beat. Old Fu? She took a closer look. His gaze was no different from usual. Did she see wrongly? Fu Zonghong patted her hand. You can leave first. I still have work to do. Okay. Fang Wanting responded. Then she turned around and left, closing the door considerately. She did not know why, but she felt uneasy. Chapter 81. After Fang Wanting left, Fu Zonghong did not go back to work. Instead, he remained silent for a moment before calling his assistant. Send me all the news about Yun Ruo and Shui Ruo that was all over the internet last year. The other side seemed to be stunned for a moment before replying, yes. Fu Zonghong hung up the phone with an inexplicable expression. Was he really wrong? He, who had never been interested in the entertainment industry, clumsily began to search for information about Fu Yun. Fu Zonghong felt as if he was meeting his daughter for the first time. After all these years, no one around him had ever said that she was a good person. Not many people her age were willing to be friends with her. Those negative comments really made him feel embarrassed. However, after leaving their circle, there were actually so many people who liked her. Fu Zonghong found her previous live broadcast videos. Did she have such a peaceful side to her? He only felt that it was strange. At night, his assistant sorted out the relevant information and sent it to Fu Zonghong. Those paragraphs of description were like heavy hammers hitting his head, making him feel dizzy. So all these years, she had always misunderstood. Impossible. How could Wen Ping and Shui Ruo do that under his watch? Had he been wrong all these years? He comforted himself. The news on the internet was a mess and all fake. How could they know the truth? However, in the end, there was still a crack in his heart. The next day, Fu Zonghong was resting at home. As he walked around the house, he suddenly remembered Fu Yun's words. Erase my traces. He could not help but pay attention to the traces in the house. He realized that he did not know when, but there was no trace of Yun Ruo's belongings in the house. And in his life, there were traces of him and Wn Ping everywhere. Fu Zonghong looked at a painting hanging on the wall by the stairs. Old Fu, what are you looking at? Fang Wanting looked up curiously from downstairs. Then he smiled and said, the flowers in the yard have bloomed. Do you want to come and take a look? Fu Zonghong was silent for a moment, then he walked down. If Fu Yun did not know anything about what had happened at the Fu family's old mansion, she would have a lot of things to do. There was a big business at the flowerbed. As the customer was an insider, Fu Yun went to handle it personally. When it was time for the holidays, Wen, who had already signed a contract with the crew, had to go to the set to film. This movie was a sci-fi film, and it was mainly done in post-production. Many scenes were completed in the studio, so they did not go to other cities to shoot exterior scenes. Fu Yun Ruo and Wen arrived at the set under the lead of Sai Yu and Yuan Xin. Because Wen was the youngest actress in the crew, she became everyone's favorite. Everyone, from the main cast and director to the extras, liked her very much. Ayo, she's 100 times cuter in real life. So cute. I also want such a cute son. Wen, do you like biscuits? I made it myself. Wen, one way they expressed their love was to feed her with snacks. As long as Wen was on the set, he would not stop eating snacks and milk tea. Fu Yun Ruo felt that if he stayed any longer, his chubby little face would become even rounder. Fu Yun Ruo stayed at the side and watched Wen shoot her first scene. The surroundings were green screens, and the background would only be added in the post-production when the computer special effects were done. The actors filmed the so-called dangerous and exciting scenes seriously. It was quite comical and awkward to watch at such a scene, but the actors were very professional and did not laugh many times. In this set, Fu Yun Ruo saw many veteran actors. Because of Sai Yu as the male lead and the joint investment of Apple Entertainment and the official company, this set became a place where all the big and small actors in the industry would fight to get in. There were many choices, so naturally, they chose the best. Wen's first scene was with the actor's mother. At the beginning, it was a parting of life and death. In the end, the child was entrusted to the male lead. Fu Yun Ruo saw that Wen's acting was quite good. She could not tell if it was good or bad, but from the director's nod of approval, she could tell that he acted very well. Although he did not pass in one take, he was praised by so many people, which meant that he was very talented. Fu Yun Ruo thought that Wen had really inherited someone's acting talent. After filming a scene, Wen ran over with sparkling eyes, asking for praise. Mom, how was my acting? Fu Yun Ruo flattered, Wen is really amazing. You acted very well. It was great. Wen beamed and could not help but giggle. Sai Yu Ruo's eyebrows relaxed and his tone was full of pride. Wen is really amazing. After analyzing the scene with him, she could act so well. She was indeed like him. Not long after, the director walked over and kept praising, Wen is really smart. I have never seen such a smart child. In time, she will definitely be able to achieve Sai Yu's achievements. Originally, a 3 or 4-year-old child was at the age where they were ignorant and had a lot of questions. They might not even know much about words. The director initially wanted an 8 or 9-year-old child to act, but he did not expect Wen to give him such a big surprise. Fu Yun Ruo sounded humble, but she was very proud in her heart. Miss Fu, are you interested in making a cameo appearance? The director knew that Fu Yun Ruo's fame was not lower than that of an A-list actress. The director was very excited and felt that this was a very good idea. Fu Yun Ruo was stunned for a moment before she waved her hand and rejected. Thank you for your kindness. I don't know how to act, so I won't embarrass myself. It's very simple. You will be able to do it after a little teaching. The director felt that since Wen was so talented, Fu Yun Ruo should not be too bad either. She would definitely be able to do it after a little teaching. Sai Yu said, if you are interested, You can give it a try. Fu Yunruo shook her head. She did not want to develop in the entertainment industry, so there was no need for that. The director tried to persuade her, but when he saw that Fu Yunruo did not change her mind, he was disappointed and could only give up regretfully. There were many things to do in the production team, so the director quickly got busy with other things. There was still Wenruo's scenes, but it was not his turn yet. The mother and son sat on a small stool and watched the production team excitedly as they filmed. They only left at night. The filming location was not far from their house. They only needed to drive for 40 to 50 minutes. Wenruo was in high spirits the entire day filming and watching. When she got home, she was already sound asleep. After getting out of the car, Yuanshin told them to rest early and to pick them up early the next morning. The car left immediately. Saiyu carried Wenruo and walked into the house with Fu Yunruo. Wen obediently lay on Saiyu's shoulder and slept soundly. Fu Yunruo asked Saiyu to put Wenruo in the room to sleep and then left quietly. "Thank you." Fu Yunruo thanked her politely. Saiyu did not seem to feel Fu Yunruo's deliberate alienation and said casually, "You're welcome." Then there was a moment of silence. After a while, Saiyu looked at Fu Yunruo and said, "Let's talk." Talk about what? Chapter 82. What was there to talk about between them? Fu Yun had a bad premonition in her heart. Just as she was about to find an excuse to avoid the talk, Saiyu seemed to know what she was thinking and said directly, "Regarding Wen, I'm sure you already know that he." Fu Yun quickly interrupted, "Wait." She looked around vigilantly and guiltily. When she saw that there was no one around, she said, "Let's find a place to talk." If someone accidentally overheard them, they would not be able to hide it. There were many places in the house where they could talk. They did not go too far and went directly to the study next door. Fu Yun closed the door and made sure that no one would barge in. Only then did she feel relieved. When Saiyu saw Fu Yun's reaction, he found it funny and a smile flashed across his eyes. "You already know, right?" Fu Yun's gaze was a little evasive. What? "I don't know." Saiyu did not allow her to evade and said firmly, "You know." Fu Yun was enlightened and blurted out, "You deliberately let me hear it that day?" Saiyu admitted frankly, "Yes." He did let her hear it on purpose. Saiyu did not look for her for so many days because he wanted to give her time to think about it and settle her thoughts. He knew human nature very well. If he told Fu Yun such a shocking thing in person, she would be in a mess that day and the conversation would be unpleasant. Saiyu was also worried that she would misunderstand, so he simply told her in this way to give her time to calm down. Saiyu originally wanted to give her more time to think it through, but she had been avoiding him for the past 2 days. Saiyu felt that he could not wait any longer and decided to lay his cards on the table. Fu Yun was speechless. She opened her mouth and tried to use her luck. In the end, she could not say anything and only said gloomily, "I don't want to know at all. Sorry, this is selfish of me. I want to accompany you and take care of you with a legitimate identity." Fu Yun was speechless. If the child's father was a complete stranger or if he did not speak so sincerely, Fu Yun could throw a tantrum. However, after so many days, she really could not be angry at all. "When did you know that Wen is in the village?" "I knew it the moment I saw you." When Saiyu said this, he looked a little sad. He recognized her at first glance, but she had never suspected him even after he had been around her for so long. Fu Yun was not to blame. She was not in the mood to find out who he was. Moreover, it had been so many years. "So you approached us back then because you wanted to snatch Wen away?" After Fu Yun was shocked by this melodramatic plot, her first reaction was that Saiyu wanted to snatch Wen away from her. She knew that no matter how charming Wen was, she would not be able to make a best actor come to their house to be a bodyguard. He was even willing to be a stay-at-home dad to take care of the child. So it turned out that he had deliberately approached them. "I didn't want to snatch you away," Saiyu comforted her. "Don't worry, I won't snatch Wen away from you." In this situation, even if he did not snatch her away, it was almost the same as snatching her away. Fu Yun thought about how much Wen liked Sai Yu. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that if Wen knew that they were still blood-related, she would definitely be happier and would not reject the role of a father. Even she could not bring herself to treat Sai Yu coldly. After all, he really took care of them a lot and they usually got along very well. Even if she did not accept it, she could not stop Sai Yu from taking on the responsibility of taking care of the child. She also had to consider Wen's feelings. Scheming dog. He did it on purpose. Indeed, she was still too naive. Sai Yu saw Fu Yun's expression change and seemed to have thought of something. Sai Yu did not pursue the matter. Instead, he said, "Although I really want to reunite with Wen as soon as possible, you are the child's mother. I respect your decision." This meant that it was up to Fu Yun to decide when to tell Wen. However, Fu Yun did not feel happy at all. She did not know how to tell Wen about this. Although the little guy sometimes liked to play around like other children, he was like a little demon. Furthermore, she did not know where his hostility came from. In any case, he did not like the identity of a father. Fu Yun swore that she had never said anything to slander the identity of a father. However, Wen was very repulsed. Fu Yun also thought that someone in the village might have said something bad to Wen, causing him to have such an understanding. However, if Wen knew that his father was Sai Yu, perhaps he would not be repulsed. However, this was not just a simple reunion. There were many other things involved. Fu Yun looked at Sai Yu and asked, "Mr. Yu, have you thought about the future? If you and Wen are reunited, what will happen in the future? You will have to marry and have children, right? At that time, won't Wen's identity be awkward?" Fu Yun really did not want to associate those three words with Wen. That was her only treasure. Furthermore, it would be unfair to Sai Yu's future wife and children. Wouldn't their existence make them uncomfortable? What if the other party had evil intentions and felt that Wen's existence was an eyesore and wanted to do something to hurt Wen? Wouldn't it be impossible to guard against it? What if all your fans know about this? At that time, will Wen be hurt? Will your family accept Wen wholeheartedly without any ill feelings? Won't there be gossip? Fu Yun said that Wen might encounter a lot of things after the matter was made public. If something like that really happened, it would be better for them to live a peaceful life and pretend that their father never existed. They would completely bury this matter. After all, they were not greedy for Sai Yu's own things. Even though she knew that this was unrealistic, if Fang Shui already knew about this matter, it meant that soon, other people would also know about it. The more people knew, the more this secret would not be a secret. One day, it would spread to Wen's ears. Sai Yu said with certainty, "I am the only child in my family. If my parents knew about Wen, they would be very happy to accept her." After all, he had not been close to women for so many years. His parents had long suspected that he was into men and did not have high hopes for him to marry a wife. They did not have high expectations for him and only hoped that he would have an heir. If they knew about the existence of Wen and Yun Ruo, they would definitely be happy to accept him. As for his other relatives, they could only suck up to Wen. Even if they had any opinions, they could only hold it in. If the gossip spread to the people involved, they would not be able to get any dividends. "I will also take care of the fans. You don't have to worry." He did not care about fame. Besides, he already had the intention to leave the entertainment industry. It was only because he wanted to spend more time with Wen that he continued to stay. The fans' attitudes could never influence his thoughts. This was his personal matter. As for the future marriage and children you mentioned. Sai Yu's lips curved upwards. He looked into Fu Yun's eyes and did not allow her to avoid his gaze. He said word by word, "I want to be a father and accompany Wen as she grows up. I also want to be a husband and take care of you." Fu Yun Ruo looked at Sai Yu in a daze and did not react for a long time. Sai Yu leaned closer to her and said in a low voice, "My wife and children will only be you and Wen. Do you understand what I mean?" This sentence had an impact on Fu Yun Ruo. It was the same as when she heard that Sai Yu was Wen's father. Fu Yun Ruo took a long time to digest the meaning of Sai Yu's words. At that moment, Her heart was beating like a drum. After a long while, she swallowed her saliva and her throat was dry. Fu Yunruo said sincerely, "Mr. Yu, you don't have to do this. Even if it's for Wen, it's not worth it for you to sacrifice yourself." Sai Yu raised his eyebrows. "Do you think I'm someone who would sacrifice myself?" Fu Yunruo. She could not understand the deeper meaning behind his words. Moreover, she did not know if Sai Yu was telling the truth. What if he wanted to do it so that he could openly snatch Wen? "I don't know if you will." Fu Yunruo vowed and said firmly, "Anyway, I won't. I won't joke about marriage." Although she had never thought of marriage, to her, marriage was sacred and could not be taken lightly. If two people who had no feelings for each other were tied together because of a child, it would be difficult for such a marriage to be happy. What if Sai Yu met someone he liked or she fell in love with him one day? Wouldn't this marriage be a joke? Anyway, she could not accept an extramarital affair. If they divorced in the future, wouldn't it hurt Wen even more? Sai Yu Ruo. Was he not obvious enough? He did not want to marry her because he wanted to have a child. Sai Yu took 2 steps forward. When Fu Yunruo saw him approaching, she instinctively retreated and looked at him warily. "You, what are you doing?" Fu Yunruo retreated to the edge of the desk. Then, she could not retreat any further. Her waist was pressed against the edge of the desk and her upper body instinctively leaned back when Sai Yu came closer. Fu Yunruo's elbows were on the desk while Sai Yu's hands were on the desk and he hugged her. Fu Yunruo stuttered, "I am warning you. Don't mess around." She would not fall for it. Sai Yu laughed softly and leaned closer to her. Ruo, I like you." Fu Yunruo suddenly opened her eyes wide, her eyes crashing into his deep eyes. Her soul seemed to be sucked in and she was in a trance for a moment. She was absent-minded and her lips were pressed against a temperature that did not belong to her. Sai Yu did not scare her. He only kissed her lightly and then said again, Ruo, I like you." His magnetic voice seemed to be electrifying. Fu Yunruo quivered and pushed him away fiercely. Then, she ran away to a safe distance. Fu Yunruo's thoughts were in a mess, but her face was calm. She bluffed and said fiercely, "Mr. Yu, I can understand your feelings of wanting to acknowledge Wen. If you continue to provoke me like this, I will not let Wen acknowledge you." After saying that, Fu Yunruo opened the door and ran out. Sai Yu shouted, Ruo. However, she did not stop. Instead, she ran even faster. She returned to her room and quickly locked the door. She felt her cheeks heat up. However, when she thought of his motive for doing this, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over her. Fu Yunruo thought that Sai Yu was too much. It was fine if he deliberately got close to them for Wen, but it was not right to provoke her because of this. No wonder he was always flirting with her. He must have wanted her to like him. Then, she would take the initiative to push Wen to his side. He would threaten him and use her as an excuse to climb up the social ladder. In the end, in order to please him, he would take the initiative to give up custody. This way, Wen would become his. Alright, maybe it was not that bad. However, he must have wanted to gain her favor so that she would not become an obstacle between Sai Yu and the child. He was too scheming. Fortunately, she did not fall for it. Chapter 83. Sai Yu didn't know which part of the problem went wrong. Everything was fine before. According to his expectations, Fu Yun would have accepted his confession and officially become a family of 3. Sai Yu had already thought of getting his assistant to find the most suitable places to hold a wedding in the world and get the world's top designers to start designing wedding gowns for Fu Yun to choose from. Wasn't this reaction wrong? Even if she didn't agree, it was because Fu Yun's feelings for him were above that of a friend and not a lover, right? Sai Yu felt that Fu Yun should have liked him. He looked at himself in the mirror. He was still so handsome that he could make people dizzy. He shouldn't have lost his charisma, right? So, where did the problem go wrong? Sai Yu was puzzled. He couldn't help but look at Fu Yun, but he received an unfriendly glare. From afar, he seemed to be able to hear her snort coldly. Sai Yu, Wen didn't know about the quarrel between the adults. Every day after he finished filming his scenes, he would happily run to Fu Yun's side. After hearing Fu Yun's praise, he would run to the director's side in satisfaction and sit on a small stool. He would seriously watch the veteran actors perform. The adults looked at his serious expression and his spirited eyes, which made their hearts soften. The director would explain to him from time to time. The little guy looked up at him with his chubby, white, and tender face. From time to time, he would look at him with his big, sparkling eyes. It made the director feel as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He didn't care if Wen understood him or not. Wen watched and listened attentively. The opportunity to observe the acting skills of veteran actors was hard to come by. Back then, when he made a name for himself, most of these popular celebrities had retired. He didn't have the opportunity to work together and observe them up close. Especially Sai Yu, he had the most scenes. Every time it was time for him to act, Wen would be excited and his eyes would sparkle. Watching an actor's performance on screen was on a completely different level from watching it live. Wen's acting skills were slowly honed after being in the entertainment industry for 20 years. Many of her specious experiences were based on years of intuition. Now that there were so many veteran actors, just a few words of advice from them would be enough to enlighten him. At this moment, there was a commotion outside the set. Two young men wearing thin vests came in with several large bags. A delicate-looking young lady walked in with a smile and said, "Our Miss Ruoshua heard that Director Mo is filming here. What a coincidence. Our Miss is in the production team next door, so she specially asked us to send some gifts to everyone. I hope you don't mind. It's Yun Xian's pastries," someone exclaimed. The crowd was in an uproar. Yun Xian's pastries were famous for being expensive, but they were equally famous for their deliciousness. Most people wouldn't be willing to spend about half a year's worth of savings to buy a box of pastries. Even if the rich wanted to buy it, they would have to line up and make an appointment to buy it. It was really generous of them to send 4 bags at once. Fu Yun raised an eyebrow. Did they do a favor to the production team next door? But she didn't say anything. Those ordinary extras and crew members were obviously very tempted by the rare delicacies, but how could those in the entertainment industry not pay attention to the gossip in the entertainment industry? They all had a good impression of Wen and her son, especially with the big Buddha, Sai Yu. Even if they were tempted, no one went up to talk to them. Instead, they just watched from the side. Yuan Xin happened to be in the production team. Seeing this, he said directly, "Look at your Miss Shui Ruo. She's really kind. She's not in the same production team, but she's so worried to send gifts. It's as if the big shots in our production team are insensible." Everyone in the industry knew that Sai Yu and Fang Shui had already shed all pretense of cordiality, so Yuan Xin's words were extremely rude. When some celebrities heard this, regardless of their status, they felt extremely uncomfortable. Great manager Yuan was right. It was as if they didn't know how to do things. They were in the same production team, but no one would be so generous to treat the production team members to something good. Only Fu Yun wanted them to take care of Wen and specially bought 2 days' worth of drinks for her. This Fang Shueruo really stretched her hand too far. Fang Shui's assistant panicked for a moment, but then she calmed down and said, "How could that be? Our miss is just feeling that fate brought us together. She also regrets that she can't work with everyone. How can our small production team afford to hire someone like Best Actress Fang?" The person who said this was Fang Shui's nemesis, Xia Waning. She was an important supporting female character in this production team. Therefore, she didn't have any scruples when she spoke. Anyway, she had already offended them. She didn't care about adding another incident. The others didn't have that much confidence. At most, they remained silent. Although there were rumors that Fang Shui had been banned, a centipede wouldn't fall down even if it was dead. She still had the Chang family behind her, so not many people would dare to openly ridicule her. Before the other party was completely suppressed, no one would be stupid enough to offend her. Although they wouldn't do it openly, they might do it secretly. The assistant felt wronged and puzzled after being humiliated by the big manager and big shot celebrity. She couldn't help but look at the people around her. They all avoided her gaze. She didn't understand. This wasn't the first time they had sent things to the production team next door. When had they not accepted it happily before? Why couldn't they accept it this time? At this moment, Yuanshin received a call. Okay, send it in directly. After he hung up, he said to the crowd, "What a coincidence. Our Sai Yu told me 2 days ago to make an appointment for pastries and drinks from Yunshen. See, they've already been delivered." As soon as Yuanshin finished speaking, several young men in uniforms walked in, each carrying 2 large bags. Someone recognized them as Yunshen's staff. 5 or 6 people came in at once, and it took them 3 trips to and fro before all the things were delivered. They looked at the table full of bags and were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths for a long time. Compared to the 4 big bags that Fang Shui had asked people to send, it was really a small number. The production team screamed with joy. Among the things sent over, there were not only pastries, but also drinks for everyone. Everyone was so lively that it was as if they were celebrating the new year. "Thank you, Brother Yu. Ah, Brother Yu, you're the best. Brother Yu loves you." The assistant was instantly left out. She watched as people crowded around, and from time to time, she could hear exclamations. Her face turned green and white, and in the end, she left with her people. Now, she didn't know how to explain it to Miss Shueruo. The assistant returned to the production team next door with a bitter face. Fang Shui was sitting in her exclusive dressing room. "How is it?" Chapter 84. Fang Shui was now the female lead in a TV production that the Chang family and the company had invested in. Today's filming location was Sai Yu's film and television set. Although she still had resources, she knew that she could only be the female lead in a production that the Chang family had invested in. Other excellent resources had already been rejected. If she didn't have any more works to release, she would fade into the crowd. Fang Shui was a little flustered. She had never thought that she would have a day like this. Her agent had been going around trying to talk to her about resources, but she hadn't been able to get any. Therefore, after knowing that there was a heavyweight production team next door, Fang Shui thought of her previous methods to win people's hearts. She thought that Director Mo had once expressed his admiration for her in public. This time, she had asked her assistant to go over and remind Director Mo of her. Then, he would naturally connect with her and she would be able to hint that she was willing to be a special guest in their production team. However, when she saw her assistant's ugly expression and the bags of things, Fang Shui's expression changed. The assistant said without confidence, "They didn't take." Seeing Fang Shui's cold expression, the assistant hurriedly explained, "Sai Yu also ordered Yunshen's pastries and drinks." The table was filled with pastries and drinks. Naturally, they didn't like what we gave them. They even mocked us. In order to prove that it wasn't her fault, the assistant hurriedly described everything that had happened to Fang Shui in detail. She even exaggerated the facts. Fang Shui's expression turned cold and she said, "I understand. You can leave now." "Oh." The assistant replied. She didn't leave immediately but said carefully, "Then those." She was referring to the pastries that hadn't been sent out. "Take them out and distribute them to everyone." The assistant's eyes lit up. She hurriedly agreed and quickly left. Fang Shui was the only one left in the lounge. She angrily swept the cosmetics on the table and gritted her teeth. Sai Yu and Yun Xian. She had relied on the Chang family and the Fu family to buy 20 boxes. How could Sai Yu buy so many? Fang Shui suddenly thought of a problem that she had neglected before. Could it be that Sai Yu didn't come from an ordinary family? Who on earth was he? Sai Yu's production team had no idea what was going on in the production team next door, and they didn't want to know either. Everyone was glowing as if they were celebrating the new year. Sai Yu's best actor was really rich. Everyone had a drink and a portion of pastries. Everyone was beaming with joy. Yun Xian's food was expensive and delicious. A drink cost more than 4 digits, not to mention these pastries. However, the price was not in vain at all. These were simply the most delicious things they had ever eaten. Wen had also eaten Yun Xian's food before. Now that she saw it, she missed it very much and couldn't help but eat until her belly was round. Sai Yu's smile was natural. Seeing that both mother and son liked it, she said, "Let's go to Yunxian some other day. Some drinks and pastries are not convenient to be sent out. Eating them in the shop is the freshest and most delicious." Wen had a greedy look on her face as she held her stomach and hurriedly nodded in agreement. The exquisite taste lingered between her lips and teeth. Fu Yun was also a little moved. However, when she met Sai Yu's smiling eyes, Fu Yun remembered that day. Fu Yun said politely, "Mr. Yu, you don't have to spend money. I'll take Wen to the shop to try it." Fu Yun saw Wen's greedy look and felt a little guilty. After coming to the capital, Fu Yun didn't have much time to take Wen out to eat, drink, and play. Perhaps on the weekends, she could take Wen around to broaden her horizons. Sai Yu smiled. "It's no trouble. It's my honor." Wen looked at the two adults. He tilted his head. "Did Mom and Uncle Yu quarrel?" Wen decisively hugged Fu Yun. She raised her fair little chubby face and said cutely, "Yes, I'll go with Mom. If Mom quarreled with someone else, he would undoubtedly stand on Mom's side." "Sai Yu. Little brat, I doted on you for nothing." Fu Yun was very happy to be coaxed. She glanced at Sai Yu and couldn't help but look at her proudly. Look, her son was on her side. Sai Yu laughed. Yes, this brat was still useful. He could coax Ruoruo. At around 4 in the afternoon, Fu Yun and Wen left the set on time to go home. Considering that Wen was a child, his scenes were mostly arranged for the day. He rarely filmed at night. However, when the car drove out of the studio's underground garage, they were stopped by someone. Fu Yun initially thought that they were stopped by fans or reporters. She was nervous, but when she took a closer look, it wasn't the case at all. Wen moved his little body and tried to stand up under the restraint of the seatbelt. "Mom, it's that woman." Fu Yun pressed his little body down. "What woman? You have to be polite when you speak. You have to call." She felt that no matter what Wen called the other party, Wen would be at a disadvantage. Fu Yun decided to skip this tangled topic. The person who stopped them came over and knocked on the window, wanting them to get out of the car. Fu Yun didn't care about what was happening outside. "Miss Fu, you see, let them leave. Don't delay my return home." The person who sent them back today was a bodyguard in a black suit. However, he wasn't alone. When he encountered someone blocking his way, he immediately made a call. Not long after, a few strong men in black came from both sides. In less than a minute, the road in front was cleared and the car drove away smoothly. Chapter 85. Wen tried his best to stand up. He twisted his small body and leaned against the back of the seat. He looked at the scene from the rearview mirror. The bodyguard in black stopped Fang Shui. From afar, he could see Fang Shui's livid face. He couldn't help but gloat. She probably rarely received such treatment, right? She was different from what he knew. Let's see if she can still be high and mighty in the future. Wen almost couldn't hold back his laughter. His chubby little butt was suddenly slapped twice. "Don't be naughty. Hurry up and sit properly." Wen hurriedly covered his little butt and sat properly. Then, he protested to Fu Yun. "Mom, I've grown up. You can't spank my butt anymore. How embarrassing." Fu Yun pinched his chubby little face. "You're my son. Even if you're a few decades old, I'll still spank your butt if you do something wrong." When heard this, he was stunned. His mother still wanted to spank him after he was a few decades old. His small mouth immediately pouted. Did he not want to lose face? He was already so old, yet he still wanted to be spanked by his mother. However, Wen glanced at Fu Yun. Fine, she was his mother. He could only pamper her. Wen sighed. It was really too difficult for him. Fu Yun didn't know what he was thinking. She was thinking about whether she should confess his background to Wen. She had a premonition that Fang Shueruo would not let the matter rest. When Fang Shueruo tried to make an issue out of this matter but was rebuked by her, she felt that Fang Shueruo might find the child one day and say something messy. Now that she knew that Fang Shui was in the production team next door, she was even more worried. However, she had previously sounded out that Wen didn't like the existence of the role of a father. Perhaps if she knew that it was Sai Yu, she would be happy to accept it. Fu Yun hesitated for a long time. In the end, she decided to confess to Wen personally. Since she couldn't hide it any longer, she might as well tell Wen in person. Wen did not know Fu Yun Ruo's inner turmoil. After the car stopped in front of the house, he could not wait to get out of the car. Then, he held Fu Yun Ruo's hand and ran back. "Mom, do your homework." He remembered that he hadn't finished his homework yet. He had to go to school tomorrow, so he had to finish it quickly. Otherwise, he wouldn't get the little red flower. Fu Yun saw that Wen was full of energy, so she put aside her emotions and settled Wen's homework and dinner first. After washing up at 9 o'clock, Fu Yun wanted to carry Wen to her room to sleep. Wen was a little shy. He had gotten used to sleeping alone not long after he arrived in the capital. Moreover, his mother had to coax him to sleep every night before leaving. Now that his mother wanted to be with him, his little face turned red, but he still happily accepted it. He missed his mother too. Lying on his mother's fragrant and soft bed, Wen couldn't help but roll around. Today, Wen was wearing a set of little raccoon pajamas. From afar, he looked like a chubby little raccoon rolling around on the bed. Fu Yun Ruo walked over with a smile and lay on the bed at the side. Then, she pulled the rolling Wen into her arms. Wen immediately lay down obediently at the side. From time to time, he would turn his head to look at Fu Yun Ruo and then laugh happily. Fu Yun Ruo was also infected by his happy mood. She couldn't help but ask, "Why are you so happy?" Wen twisted his little body. His little face was rosy as he said honestly, "I'm happy." Fu Yun Ruo played with Wen for a while before saying hesitantly, Wen, Mom has something to tell you." Wen's eyes lit up. "What is it?" Wen thought to himself. Was his mother going to emphasize to him again that he shouldn't have any contact with Fang Shueruo? He didn't want to, but they had all taken the initiative to look for him. He didn't know when he could completely ban Fang Shueruo. Wen felt that as long as the Chang family and the Fu family protected her, it would be very difficult to ban her. Unless there was serious negative news about her, her company and the Chang family wouldn't give up on her so easily. Wen was short and couldn't do anything now. His mother didn't know how to use those tricks, so he could only let them jump around. Sigh. Forget it. As long as he could protect his mother, he could take the rest slowly. Fu Yun Ruo's heartbeat unconsciously quickened. In the end, she steeled her heart and said, "Sai Yu is your biological father." She struggled for a long time before finally saying this. "Oh, it wasn't about that woman, Fang Shueruo?" Wen heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he realized what Fu Yun Ruo had said. He knew every word, but why couldn't he understand the combination? Wen stared blankly at Fu Yun Ruo. "This matter is quite complicated. It's not that your father doesn't want you anymore. He didn't know about your existence in the past, but ever since he recognized you, he has been paying attention to you. Sai Yu Ruo?" Father. Wen had never thought that there would be a day when these two words would be equivalent. How was this possible? The idol he had admired for so many years was his biological father. Fu Yun Ruo's voice was still rambling on. In Wen's ears, it sounded far and near, drifting erratically. His eyes were staring straight ahead. His little mind was a mess, and he couldn't think at all. Except for that night's incident, Fu Yun Ruo told Wen everything. From an objective point of view, he didn't smear Sai Yu's name. After all, they didn't have much of a conflict. Fu Yun Ruo thought that Wen would be very happy after he reacted. After talking for a long time, he finally noticed that Wen was unusually silent. Wen, are you unhappy?" Could it be that he still hadn't digested this explosive news? "Mom, April Fool's Day is over." Wen's little expression was calm. "I'm sorry, Wen." Mom only found out about this not too long ago. I definitely didn't mean to hide it from you, but what Mom said is the truth. Wen blinked. After a long time, his brain finally worked. Mom, does Uncle you want to be my stepfather? You're afraid that I won't accept it, so you told me that he's my biological father? Wen felt that this matter was too ridiculous. How could Yu be his biological father? This was simply the biggest joke of the century. It was impossible. Anyone could be his biological father, but Yu couldn't be his biological father. How was this possible? The most reasonable explanation Wen could think of was that his mother wanted to find him a stepfather while he was still young. She was afraid that he would be estranged from the newly formed family, so she said that he was their biological father. It's okay. I don't mind you finding me a stepfather, as long as he can take care of you for the rest of your life, Wen said seriously with a serious face. As long as you like it, I can accept it. So, don't use this absurd matter to deceive him. Fuyun Ruo. How could she explain clearly that he was a biological father and not a stepfather? Chapter 86. Wen's words were reasonable, and Fuyun was almost led into a ditch. She thought that the adults were really telling a lie in order to successfully form a family. Fuyun patted Wen's head. Wen, I know you are a smart child. Mother is telling the truth. Moreover, isn't it good to have a father who dotes on you? Fuyun did not expect Wen's reaction. She thought that after Wen knew this fact, he would be very happy to accept it. After all, that was the person he liked and admired. What about Mother? Wen looked up at Fuyun. Don't worry, he has no intention of separating us. We will still be like before. Nothing will change. It's just that you have an additional father to take care of you. Wen. He buried his head in Fuyun's arms and did not speak. Wen. Fuyun called out. When she did not get a response, she did not force it. Instead, she patted her back rhythmically. Wen closed his eyes. His expression was complicated and difficult to distinguish. How could he believe this? Yu was his biological father. He tried to find a loophole, but his thoughts were in a mess. In the end, he could not resist his child's instincts and unknowingly fell asleep. The next morning, Wen woke up in a daze. With Fuyun's help, he changed his clothes and woke up not long after. Wen washed up while thinking. He seemed to have had a dream last night. He dreamed that his mother said that Uncle Yu was his biological father. He thought seriously. Could it be that he dreamed of what he thought of during the day? He wanted Uncle Yu to be his father. Fuyun saw that when Wen was still a little dazed. After he was done, she held his hand and led him downstairs. Because they all woke up early and the kindergarten was not far away, they had plenty of time to eat breakfast and took their time. Fuyun looked at Wen's expression and couldn't help but ask, Wen, what Mom told you last night? Wen. So it wasn't a dream last night? Wen chewed on the fragrant meat bun and instantly felt that it was tasteless. However, in the spirit of not wasting food, he still finished the rest of the buns. After one night, Wen was able to think. He found a new point of doubt. Mom, do you have any evidence for what you said last night? Evidence? Fuyun was stunned for a moment before she reacted. No. She had heard everything from Yu, so she believed him. Now that Wen said this, if Fuyun thought about it, wasn't she being too hasty? She believed everything Yu said. What if he was bluffing her? Fuyun felt that she was too naive. Wen saw that Fuyun didn't have any evidence to prove it, so he frowned. Mom, how can you prove that it's true? Fuyun. Without any evidence, she felt a little guilty and lacked confidence. Mr. Yu doesn't have to lie to us. Wen shook his head and didn't continue asking. He felt that his mother was also confused, so he should communicate with Yu directly. Wen thought about it. Recently, he had heard people joking that he and Uncle Yu were very similar. Wen thought that it was because he had unconsciously brought out some charm when he was filming. In addition, children instinctively imitated the words and actions of the adults they liked. Wen also realized that he usually unconsciously imitated Sai Yu. Although he consciously adjusted later on, perhaps someone had noticed it. Could it be that because of this, Sai Yu had the idea to make him his son and then lied to his mother? Wen was more willing to believe that this was the reason. He didn't want to equate Sai Yu with the role of a father. In his heart, his father was equivalent to a scumbag who tricked innocent girls and then abandoned them. Fu Yun couldn't win against Wen, so she skipped this topic. She felt that it was better to let Sai Yu show evidence first. Otherwise, the little guy wouldn't be able to believe it. Fu Yun saw that Wen had finished eating, so she took her small bag and went to school with Wen. When they walked out of the house, they coincidentally met Sai Yu again. This time, it was rare that Wen didn't take the initiative to greet him warmly. Instead, he turned his head and left the other party with the back of his head. Even if he didn't want to believe it, it still affected him. Wen was now busy going to school and couldn't be bothered with him. Of course, he was the only one who knew whether or not he was running away from the truth. Sai Yu? How did he provoke this little ancestor again? Fu Yun saw Wen's attitude, so she couldn't ignore the other party's greeting. She could only help Wen respond, "Morning." Sai Yu walked over and glanced at Wen. Then, he asked Fu Yun, "What's going on?" As a mother, her attitude towards him had changed 180 degrees, and as a son, he was also starting to give him attitude. Fu Yun didn't know where to start at that moment. Wen snorted at Sai Yu and pulled Fu Yun away. He didn't let Fu Yun talk to Sai Yu. "Mom, the car is here." Fu Yun followed the force and walked a few steps. The car stopped beside her. Wen hurriedly urged Fu Yun to get into the car. After the two of them got into the car quickly drove away. Sai Yu. Why did she treat him like a scourge? Fu Yun glanced at Wen. Didn't you say that you wanted to talk to him? Why did she suddenly not want to see him? Fu Yunruo looked at the person who was still standing by the side of the road from the rearview mirror. She thought to herself, it seemed that the many coincidental encounters in the past were all intentional. It was to pick up Wen in disguise and to spend more time with Wen. She knew it. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? Wen's little eyebrows were still furrowed. "I'm busy with school. Let's talk when I'm free." Fu Yun. She didn't know why, but she suddenly pitied Sai Yu a little. Wen said sternly, "Before I talk to the other party, you can't have any contact with him." His mother's personality was too innocent. At this moment, he felt that Sai Yu had bad intentions towards his mother. Without him watching over her, what if his mother was fooled into believing him? Fu Yun, fut. She couldn't help but laugh. Wen's little expression was really too cute. Wen was very dissatisfied. "Mom, don't laugh. I'm talking to you very seriously." Wen wanted her to have a proper attitude and not take his words to heart just because he was a child. "Okay, I was wrong." Fu Yun stopped smiling and tried to put on a very serious expression. Wen is right. Mom will listen to Wen. Wen saw that Fu Yun knew that she was wrong and changed her attitude. He nodded in satisfaction and then reminded her again worriedly. Even though Fu Yun's attitude was good, she was still worried until Wen entered the school. "You have to remember." "Fu Yun, I remember. I know what to do. Go to school in peace. Mom will come to pick you up in the afternoon." Wen followed the teacher into the school, looking back 3 times at every step. After Fu Yun sent her child to school, she went straight to the flower garden to work. She didn't expect Sai Yu to come over personally. Obviously, he couldn't sit still because of Wen's attitude in the morning. Everyone knew that Sai Yu and the Fu family had a close relationship. Hence, Sai Yu went straight to the flower garden without any obstruction and stood in front of Fu Yun. Fu Yun couldn't chase him out in front of Uncle Guo, so she led him to the living room of the building to receive him. Fu Yun didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Last night, I told Wen." As for suspecting that he wanted to be a stepfather and wanted evidence, Fu Yun didn't say much. Instead, she said, "He said that he will talk to you when he has time." Sai Yu heard this and said, "I'm not asking him. I want to ask you. What do you think? He had already confessed, but Fu Yun's attitude towards him was still distant. He didn't believe that he had lost his charm. But he couldn't guess her thoughts, so he could only ask her directly. Fu Yun. He wanted to lie to her again. She didn't answer but asked, how do you know that when is your son? What if he isn't? Do you have evidence? Sai Yu raised his eyebrows. Isn't this a matter of course? He said with certainty. Besides me, you haven't had anyone else, right? Fu Yun. Although it was the truth, when he said it, she felt very embarrassed and her face turned red. Sai Yu looked at her face. It was white with a tinge of red. It was so tempting that he couldn't help but want to take a bite to see if it was as delicious as he imagined, but he resisted. I've only had you all this time. Fu Yun looked at him with distrust. She didn't believe him. No matter how clean he was, it had been 4 to 5 years and he didn't have anyone by his side. She didn't want to discuss this topic with Sai Yu, so she forcefully changed the topic. Don't look for me in the near future, right? When repeatedly emphasized that before you come to a conclusion, I shouldn't have any contact with you. So, Fu Yun looked at Sai Yu and shrugged. You understand, right? She wanted to listen to her son. Sai Yu. This stupid kid. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.